Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today I have the honor to show you a preview of the analog Baron from Black Square Simulation. I'm sure many of you have just about seen my video on the analog Bonanza, and the two planes are very much related to one another, in that the Baron basically is the two-engined version of a Bonanza. And therefore they look quite different, they seem quite similar, and they are most certainly a lot of fun to fly. So let's talk about a couple of the basic features that come with the analog Baron. And we have an extensive manual with a systems guide, operating limitations, electrical schematics, checklists and tutorials, and they're available on justflight.com on the product page already, so you already have the possibility to have a look into that one. Going ahead then, we have several aircraft in one, in that you can choose between the turbocharged, pressurized, winglets, or just make your own config by changing the config files around. Now, we have hot swappable radio stacks within the cockpit, which I'm going to show you in a moment when we head into the plane. We can choose between over 100 random or scheduled failures available in the in-game interface, which I will also show you. It definitely features the most advanced turbocharger simulation in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You don't need to adjust the mixture anymore before reaching the critical altitude like you had to in any of the previous versions. And Metaleye, good that you ask already, does it have the GTN XI from TDS? And yes, it absolutely has. We are going to be using that one for today's flights. So, another very cool feature in this one is the pressurization and door seal system that not only features 7 different failures, but using the door seals also reduces your cabin noise. And I'm going to show you the pressurization system in action in a few moments. It also features an advanced fuel-injected engine simulation that features fouling, vapor lock, flooding and backfires. So definitely use your checklists, but I'm going to talk you over it in a few moments. The airplane itself has TDS GTN XI 750 integration, it has the PMS 50 GTN 750, and the working title GNS 530 and 430. Another feature that I also really like about it is the mathematically accurate VOR and ADF signal attenuation and noise degradation, and I hope to be able to show you that one later on as we fly along. Also, it features a completely simulated electrical system, including the standby alternator and standby gyros, so we'll talk you over it later on. Of course, every single circuit breaker in the airplane is pullable, and each of them with the correct electrical logic, and the schematic for that is actually located inside the manual, which you can see as well. So, I would say that is quite a set of features there. One more that is worth talking about is the JPI EDM 760 engine monitor, but as always, we'll see about it later on. It features a lot of really cool more features, so let's talk about a little bit of the basics of the Baron. And basically, as we can see right here in the simulator, the exterior model is still based on the default Asobo model, however they've done quite a couple of changes to the model in that we have winglets available, or that we can see that we have the turbocharged engines up here. Apart from that, the external model is basically the Asobo model, which is something that I don't know, I really appreciate it, because it means that Asobo had a very good model, and in that they went ahead and reused the good parts of Microsoft Flight Simulator. It means they could save on the expenses for the development and therefore put it where it really matters, which of course is right up here in the cockpit. Now, I told you earlier that we have quite a couple of different avionics setups in this plane, and well, the first thing you'll probably notice is, if you've seen the Bonanza, hey, this looks somewhat different. And yes, indeed, as I mentioned earlier on, the Baron basically is the two-engined version of the Bonanza. So, if you have seen my video on the Bonanza, or if you own it already, then you will be quite aware of the basic switch layout and stuff like that, and the basic layout of the cockpit. There are a couple differences, as we can see mostly over here, in that we have the cabin pressurization system installed on this plane. And going ahead, we of course have the hot swappable radios. So looking at it, COM1 is currently selected to GTN 750. And in the case in my simulator, this is the TDS GTN 750XI. So that's the one based on the Garmin trainer, so the closest we're going to get to real life. However, the plane also supports the PMS-50 GTN 750 add-on, which is more based on the standard Microsoft avionics, but still is a very good unit. And most importantly, it has an updatable IRAC database, but that's for a different topic. Anyway, the plane picks automatically between the two depending on what you have installed. So that's the GTN 750 we have in here. However, we can flick that around. So if I switch that over here, now we have got the working title GNS 530 installed. And also we have the secondary unit, the 430, and that can be installed with the right switch over here. So here we can switch between the GNS 430 and the KX 155 radio. So that's the nav setup we have in here. Also, we can change the COM1 unit to a simple KX 155 radio as well, if we want to go the really old-fashioned way. But don't worry, you still have area navigation available in that we have the KNS-81 RNAV computer. Now, that is a really cool piece of equipment from the 1980s, and I'll show it briefly later on during the video, but for now, let's switch to what most of you are probably going to use, which is the GTN 750. And I'll take my panel configuration like this with the GTN 750 and the KX 155 as number 2 radio. So that's the configuration in which we are going to fly the plane today. Apart from that, we do have tip tanks available. As we can see over here, we've got the gauge and we've got the pumps. But for today, let's just use a standard load in the main tanks. Apart from that, the panel is pretty similar to the Bonanza. But a couple of things have been moved around, like the prop ampere indicator or the instrument air down there. Alright, anyway, that's enough talking. So let's talk about what we want to do in today's video then. We'll put this plane to the test in that we are going to do 3 different stages. Number 1, we are going to fly around VFR. We're currently standing at Frankfurt-Egelsbach over here, which is the general aviation airport that is right next to Frankfurt-Main Airport. And we are going to depart from here toward the south, towards Mannheim, where we are going to do a couple of traffic patterns to practice some of the landings in this airplane. I've only just gotten it right today, so I've only done like 3 or 4 landings in this, so that's gonna become interesting. And then we are going to move on from Mannheim towards Baden-Baden, where we are going to do an IFR pickup, and then we'll take the plane all the way to the ceiling of flight level 250, and we're going to test out the pressurization system, and we are going to see how the airplane flies IFR. In contrast to the analog Bonanza, the analog Baron is actually equipped with a full de-icing system. You can see our de-icing boots on the leading edges over here, and therefore we can take this one IFR without any limitations. Well, that is not entirely correct, but compared to the Bonanza, we can take it IFR without having to watch for freezing conditions all the time, since the Bonanza was not certified for flight into freezing conditions. This one is. Alright, so, from here on, let's move right back into the cockpit and discuss our last part of the plan, because the last part is probably going to be the most interesting. We're going to take the plane IFR from Baden-Baden towards Stuttgart, where we are going to do an approach, and thereafter we are going to cancel our IFR over there, and then we'll fly it over to Freiburg and do an engine failure over there to see how the thing flies single engine and to check the engine relight procedures and everything in flight. So that definitely is the part today that I'm personally looking forward to the most. But let's take things slow and let's have a look into the area in which we are actually operating. So for this, I'm going to use the Navigraph VFR charts for our en route navigation, and for the navigation close by, the German air traffic control units have finally released the VFR AIP available free of charge. So let's quickly go ahead and have a look into the charts for the airports where we are going to fly, so that you guys know where we are and what we are going to do. So here's the AIP online from the Deutsche Flugsicherung, the German air traffic control provider. We'll go to the VFR AIP, aerodromes, we'll start off in Frankfurt, and that's going to be Frankfurt Egelsbach, Echo Delta Fox Echo. And here we have the real-life charts. That's the current real-life stuff that we will be using today. So we are on here, and basically that's our ground chart. We're parking on the apron up here on stand number 4. We'll start up our engines, taxi out to the left, and then we'll depart runway 28, and we are going to depart this one visually straight ahead via the Delta routing, which is basically straight ahead to the highway, and then an immediate left turn. Don't overshoot the highway, because over here we have the control zone of Frankfurt Main Airport, and since it's Friday, they're running a really busy VATSIM event over there, so we better make sure not to mess that one up. Alright, so we'll be departing along the south, and looking into the area chart, we'll be departing along the highway toward Ried VOR. Once we're at Ried, we can climb 3,500. Prior to that, we gotta maintain below 1,500. Alright, so that is that. From there on, quick look into the Navigraph en route charts for what we are going to do. And here they are. So we'll depart towards Ried, that's the part that we've looked at. Then fly southbound and over to Mannheim, where we're going to do a couple of touch and goes. And then we'll go southbound again along the Rhine towards Baden-Baden Airport, where we are going to do the IFR pickup. So that's the idea for the first section of the flight. Now, let's go ahead and start up our aircraft. First things first, quick safety inspection here, making sure that all the circuit breakers are actually in, because things can and do pop. So if you look at this, they're all fully operable. So circuit breakers are in, Alton static source is set to normal, and then we can check all the switches, which basically all have to be into the down position except for the surface DI, which is in the middle position. Magneto is off. Everything down here is basically pushed in. Like this. Landing gear, leave it down. Trim is neutral. Park brake set. Ooh, what was that? Okay, and then going ahead, we have our gauges. The cabin altitude for now is left at sea level, because we are not going to pressurize the plane on the first part of the flight. So, cabin pressurization switches in the dump position at the moment, because, as said, we don't want to pressurize it yet. Okay, and the last thing is the CO2 detector over here, which is a very interesting piece of equipment, because that is actually fully modeled. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and start this thing up. So, the master switch is on, beacon light on, and just for reference, you do have some very complete checklists in the INSIM menu over here, including normal and non-normal checklists. So, up here, we can basically take the entire start procedure, but I'm going to try this one by memory, because I practiced it a little bit before the stream, but most likely I'm going to mess it up, then we'll have a flooded engine, and then we have to follow that checklist. But we'll see about it. Okay, so, mixture full forward, props full forward, let's go ahead and prime the plane, so fuel boost pumps to high. Okay, for about 3 seconds, which we have reached by now. So, throttles open about ½ an inch, and then we can start engine number 2. The prop area is clear. Okay, that's a good start on number 2. So, throttle 1000 RPMs, we have positive oil pressure, temperature is building. Very good, that is a good start on engine number 2. Let's go ahead and start number 1. We are clear on the left. And it's not starting. I told you I'm gonna mess that up, even though it's definitely not on purpose. Anyway, let's try that once more. Full throttle, give me a bit of priming here. So, more than 3 gallons an hour. We are gonna do that for 3 seconds. Perfect. Throttle half an inch open, and then starter. Okay, that's better. Engine is running. So, we have oil pressure, we have 1000 RPMs. Very nice. So, avionics master on. The avionics are going through a self-test sequence over here. Also, a very quick look over here on the weather radar panel, which is the panel that features all the failures.
System test okay.
So, basically, over here is my engine conditions. You can see I've got 97% on the left, 98 on the right. That is the health of the engine. And I did do a little bit of traffic pattern work before, and that did, well, cause my engines to get a little damaged there. But I'm not going to go over all of that in detail now. Anyway, what we can do over here is we can repair the engines if we damage them too much. Looking into the log page, over here is basically where we can control all the failures. So I've got it set to a global failure rate here of 1.0, and I could increase or decrease that. That is just like what's your chance of encountering a failure compared to encountering a failure in real life. So if that's set to 1.0, then you have the same chance of something going wrong as you would have in real life. You can even set it to off, then you will not get any failures at all, but that kinda takes the fun out of these aircraft, doesn't it? So going into the rest of it, we have detailed settings down here where we can basically control all the different failures one by one. So over here, by the way, is the mean time between the failure occurring. So once in a 5,000 hours, we're going to get a right turbocharger failure, for example. Now, you can accelerate that if you like to. Okay, so that's basically the weather radar with all the failure controls, which is a really interesting thing there. But for us today, we are going to leave it on, but I seriously hope that nothing's gonna happen. Let's go ahead and program the flight plan. We're gonna fly from Egelsbach to Mannheim City Airport, and from there we'll take it on towards Karlsruhe, Baden-Baden. Then, Colin, could we have some engine sounds? You should be able to hear them. At least according to my streaming software, you should. Anybody else having problems hearing the engines? I mean, they are pretty quiet at the moment, that's true, but they're an idle after all. Okay, so that's a route of flight. Then we can go ahead and quickly program some stuff over here. So we said we wanted to fly over VOR. Okay, and the rest of it is for now good enough for me. So departure frequency, we don't seem to have Egelsbach information, or Egelsbach radio as they're called nowadays online. So we'll just keep it at that, but there is a lot of stuff in Frankfurt, so we gotta be very sure not to accidentally smash into the controlled airspace. Okay, so that's our route. Onto the map. We don't have safe taxi over here, but that's alright. Okay. So, number 1 radio on Honeycomb, number 2 radio is going on guard frequency. Whoever knows what we're going to encounter there today. Knowing my luck, we will encounter something. Okay, apart from that, we'll leave the on-off computer alone for now. We are going to deal with that later, and then we will do the autopilot stuff at the holding point as well. So, lean the engines a little bit on the ground, otherwise you are going to damage them eventually and foul some spark plugs. Okay, that's pretty much our setup complete. So, I'm afraid this little guy over there will encounter a bad time now, but it's time for us to go. Patron altitude 1300, pre-selected, and then taxi light on, park brake off. It rolled pretty nicely in around 1000 RPMs already, so we can just about keep it there to keep the plane going slow, and eventually it is going to accelerate anyway. They're using runways 25 in Frankfurt, so we are going to go towards runway 26 here at Egelsbach. So, Kelts Gaming, thank you very much for the 1999 donation. Emmanuel, I've been loving your videos on VNAV, wind, etc. lately. You're really getting into the theory, my friend, but very informative. Flight lessons due. Yeah, that's the idea behind the channel, giving you as much of the theory as possible, but putting it into practical content. And talking about practical contents, we are going towards the runway right now. Something I find a little interesting here on the Baron compared to the Bonanza is that we are getting the cowl flap lights illuminated on the ground when the cowl flaps are open, contrary to the Bonanza where we don't get those lights. But that's as it is supposed to be, so we are going to keep it at that. Okay, turn it away a little bit, and then park brake set. Let's go ahead and do our runner. Before we do so, quick check on the engine instruments, making sure that we have oil temperature above the amber and that we have some cylinder head temperature over here already, which we do. So let's go ahead and do the run-up. For those of you familiar with the Bonanza, the initial part is going to be quite similar in that we're going to go to 1700 RPMs. But this one is quite a bit stronger, so the throttle positions are not exactly the same. The reason is, on this airplane we have a turbocharger, so this is a turbocharged airplane, while the Bonanza is a turbo-normalized airplane. So basically the difference is that on the manifold we can get higher pressure. Okay, so 1700 RPMs, the first thing we're going to do is to exercise the prop controls. And we're going to do that 3 times. The first one, we check the RPMs, drop to 1400, and then I'm going to put it back forward. So let's have a look at that. Perfect. Now we're going to repeat the thing, and we have a look at the manifold pressure, which is going to experience a slight increase as we're about to cycle the props. Here we go. Watch that. And now we're going to do it a 3rd time, and this time we check for the oil pressure, which, contrary to the Bonanza and the Baron, is going to increase. So, once more, watch the increase. Here we had it. Perfect. So, once the engines are stabilized at 1700 RPMs once again, we are going to check the magnetos. And they are pretty much stabilized, so right magneto on both engines. We're looking for a drop of not more than 150 RPMs. And a difference of not more than 50, which we have, very good. So back to both. Make sure they go back to 1700 RPMs. And once we're done with that, we're going to do the same thing on the left magneto. There we go. They're dropping around 110 to 130. So right engine is in a little worse shape then. But that is expected. Okay, so back to the both position. And now we can go ahead and check a couple of the electrics. So we're going to start by by watching the alternator loads down here. They're around 12.5 right now, so now I'm turning off the left alternator. The right one is taking over and you can see the load increasing there. Now I'll turn off the right alternator, watch the battery voltage go down, turn the left one on, and we see the left alternator picking up around the same load as the right one before. So now right alternator on again, and they are both in the middle. So, propeller anti-ice. Watch the prop amps up here going up as I turn it on. And you can also see the alternator load increase up here. So, prop anti-ice off again, alternator load back to normal. Now we're going to make sure that the rest of the anti-icing system actually works properly. So, as I turn every single one of them on now, make sure to watch the alternator load down here increase gradually. So, left pitot heat, right pitot heat, fuel vent heat, stall warning heat, windshield heat, and on every single one of them we saw an increase in the alternator load up here. So that means that the systems are working. Okay, so that's that stuff. Then we can go ahead and check our pressurization system. And in order to do that, we are going to increase our prop RPMs to 2000. Okay, that's 2000 RPMs, and that should provide sufficient pressure. First thing to check is to make sure that we actually don't get any increase in the PSI up here and the cabin remains at 0. So that's the first check. Now we're gonna switch it to 1000 foot below the airport level and put the cabin pressure switch into press and the door seals into press. Now, it takes a little while for the door seals to actually fully seal the plane. So we give it a short time, and then we press the test button. Now we can see the cabin descending down here while we hold the test button. Okay, let go, press are done, and door seal depressurized. Okay, so the cabin pressurization system works. And with that checked, let's bring the engines back into our ground position. So looking for around about between 1000 and 1200 RPMs. I'm also going to give it a little bit of a leaning once more in order not to foul the plugs. Okay, next up, we check that the autopilot is working, and in order to do that, we first of all set the heading back about 30 degrees to the left and engage the autopilot in heading mode. We can see the control column moves left. Now we set it to 30 degrees to the right. Watch the flight director respond, and watch the control column move to the right as well. As it does. Okay, now testing the disengage button. Pressing it once disengages the autopilot. Pressing it twice also removes the flight director from view. Okay, let's do that once more. Heading autopilot, and this time I'm going to do a full input on my physical yoke that I have in front of me. Full to the left, hold it for a bit, and that also disconnects the autopilot. So with that, the autopilot system is checked. Next we check the electrical trim, which we have up here. So forward and watch the plane trimming. Aft, once again, watch the plane trimming. Okay, finally we're going to return the trim to 0, and for that I've used the switches on my yoke. So with that, we are pretty much prepared for our departure. So once again, remember, straight ahead, left-hand turn, but don't overshoot the highway too much, otherwise we end up in the Frankfurt control zone, and we don't climb above 1,500 feet, so the target is going to be 1,300 until we have passed the read VOR. Finally, I can quickly tune read on my radios as well. 12.2 on both sides, here we go. Okay. Good, with that we are ready for departure. So let's see, we've got some traffic returns from Frankfurt-Main Airport over here, nothing around Frankfurt-Egelsbach, so we can safely assume that there is, well, nobody there. Clear left, clear on the right, and then pitot heat on, strobe light on, landing lights on, fuel pumps on low. The latter is not in the books, so we don't have to do those fuel pumps. And mixture rich. We keep the flaps up for the takeoff. So we don't have to turn those fuel pumps on, but it's something that one of my flight instructors taught me once in the past. He basically said, always use the fuel pumps for takeoff and landing when you have them available. So, ever since, even though it's not in the manuals, that is what I do. Alright, lined up on the runway, weather radar can go on, transponder into altitude, and with that we are ready to go. So things are gonna go quite fast here. So we'll rotate at 81 and climb at 115, and then we'll try not to bust the altitude. Okay, ready to go. Take off. Takeoff thrust set, indications normal. Light wind from the right. Rotate. Positive rate, tap the brakes, gear up. And we've got 115 knots. .400 above the ground. Engines 2500 RPMs, fuel pumps can go off. Okay, and we start the left-hand turn and level off in 1300. I'm going to reduce my engine power quite significantly here, because the Baron has quite a bit of power. Okay, here's the highway. Okay, slightly to the right of the highway, that looks very good. And we're gonna maintain this altitude for now. Okay, a little bit turbulent over here, as always in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but we can live with that. Alrighty, so, I'm gonna fly along that highway towards the south, and then when we are passing Ried VOR, which is in 9 miles from here, we can see the indication up here as well. So once we're passing the Ried VOR, we can continue the climb. Until then, we are just going to continue along the highway, and we can use the GTN as well to verify that we don't accidentally fly into the control zone. And here you can see how tight this actually is with the Frankfurt control zone. So if we go out to the left side there, oh, there we can already see the runway 18 of Frankfurt Airport. Okay, let's go ahead and accelerate a little bit. So in those piston engine airplanes, it's basically when you're reducing power, you do it from left to right. When you're increasing power, you do it right to left. So we want to increase power, so mixture forward. Then we increase the propeller RPMs. I'm going to use 2500 over here. And then we are going to do the manifold pressure, which I'm going to bring up to 30 initially. Which should give us a nice little boost over here. Accelerate a little bit. Okay, we're passing the crossing of the highway, that's reporting point Delta, so we're now clear of the Egelsbach airspace. Continuing on towards Ried VOR. Can make that right turn over here. And watch as that airplane accelerates. 170 knots now. A little bit turbulent up here, but that's fine. That should hopefully get better as we accelerate and climb a little bit more later on. Watch that, 190 knots over here. That's what I call a nice little speed. We're still getting those cowl flap slides, but let's see, the cylinder head temperature is actually alright. So let's go ahead and close those cowl flaps here. Now the lights are gone. The engines are going to heat up a bit more, so we keep an eye on the cylinder head temperature there. Otherwise we might be damaging our engines, but that should be more than fine for now. One thing that I would love to see in the manuals would be the cruise power tables, because we don't actually seem to have those available. That's the only one thing that I'm missing in this add-on. Okay, we can see on the GPS there that we're getting clear of the Charlie airspace, at least of the very lowest part of the Charlie airspace, so we will be able to continue our climb to 3,500 feet, and I'm going to take 200-foot distance from those 3,500, so that we can actually have a little bit of margin before we accidentally climb into the controlled airspace. As said, quite a busy event at Frankfurt today, so we want to be sure that we don't mess this. Okay, leaving Grid VOR. So we have only about 5 minutes towards, only about 5 minutes until we reach Mannheim Airport, which is where we want to do a couple of traffic patterns in order to get familiar with how the plane lands. So that should be 125.2 if I'm not mistaken. Let's call in there and see if they can offer us some ATC service. One radar, hello, Delta India November Golf Delta.
Delta India November Golf Delta, danke.
Delta India November Golf Delta out of Egelsbach passing 2,200 for touch and goes at Mannheim. Is that in your airspace?
Delta India November Golf Delta, affirm it is.
Delta India November Golf Delta, roger. Okay, so very quick look into the Mannheim City Airport so that we know where we are about to go. That is the approach chart. We are going to arrive at Kilo, which is basically following the highway that we are already flying along. And once we pass the other highway here, we have reached Kilo, and then we can do our traffic patterns over here. Thereafter, we're going to leave via Whiskey. So down from Kilo, couple patterns, and then out via Whiskey. That is the plan of what we're about to do. Okay, I'm not even going to climb any higher. So this is a quick check here how fast the Baron actually goes. And look at that, it's doing a lovely 215 knots over here. But let's give it something reasonable. Let's go 20 and 20.
Oscar, Alpha, yeah.
That should be a good setting.
So request airtime for maybe 7 minutes.
And
move, take your time.
well, we're 3 minutes from the airport, so we don't really need to
runway 27, QNH 1010.
Delta Golf, Delta runway 27, QNH 1010, and we are now 3 minutes north of Kilo.
Delta Golf Delta, you can join final runway 27, call final.
Delta Golf Delta, joining final runway 27, will go.
Good evening, Radar, the 606 climbing for flight level 110.
Alright, so we've got the highway in front of us over there, and basically when the highway thrust is from the right, that's where Kilo is. And for the, let's say for the lazy among you, we have it on our GPS up here as well. Mannheim, waypoint Kilo. Okay, 2,000 feet is the height of the control zone, so 1,800 looks good for me for the entry into it. And now comes the interesting part of things. I've reduced power already quite a bit. My power setting is now 20 inches and 2,000 RPMs. And even with that, we're still doing quite a high speed, and I don't have too much experience with the Baron yet. So let's see how well or not I'm going to be able to decelerate the airplane. And let's see how well I'm going to be able to fly it. Look at that, it's still doing about 180 knots, and we are really not using a lot of power over here. And we haven't even leaned the airplane, so that is quite impressive. Flying VFR, so looking out the window, trying to spot the airport. I have a feeling that it's somewhere over there.
We're having a little trouble picking up the Frankfurt 8, I'm not sure what's an issue with it. 277 Yankee Victor. Roger, I will check that. Runway 25.
Mannheim itself, is at an elevation of 309 feet, so let's go down 1,300, which is going to provide a nice pattern altitude.
70, climb flight level 116.
And then we are crossing Kilo right now. Now there is the junction of the highways.
With their 654, contact arrival on 125, decimal 35.
So 1,300, nice pattern altitude. Let's reduce power, get the plane down to a nice speed for the approach.
Hansa 795, Elbow Radar, hallo, ich bin's auch, identified. Proceed to Spesa, cleared Spesa, 3 Bravo.
Proceed to Spesa, cleared Spesa, 3 Bravo,
Okay, that's the field over there. So approach, we're going to fly around 90 knots, and then we'll do touch and go, left-hand pattern, climbing 1,300. We'll probably do 2 or 3 touch and goes in order to see how the airplane lands. So there's the field.
Victor just received word that the ATIS should be working. So
First idle.
Contact Frankfurt 125 decimal 350. Alright, 125.
Okay, speed into the white arc, then flaps approach, gear down. Fuel pumps on, landing lights are still on. Very good.
Golf Delta, after the approach, join traffic circuit runway 27.
Golf Delta, after the approach, join the traffic circuit and we request touch and go, turning final right now.
Golf Delta, roger. After touch and go, traffic circuit, runway 27, and wind is calm, runway 27, clear touch and go.
After touch and go, join the traffic circuit, runway 27, clear touch and go, Delta Golf Delta. Okay, turning final, properly with full forward. We're on the ATIS. Sorry, on the ATIS. On the puppies, of course. Here we go, so let's see. 3 reds, correcting. That's looking better. Speed is coming down nicely. Okay, thrust idle.
Direct Spesa, cleared Spesa 3 Bravo, Lufthansa 698.
That was a little firm. Okay, so flaps up. Set power. Power set. Rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. .400 AGL, 2,500 RPMs, and fuel pumps off. Okay, left-hand turn. Pattern altitude. Reduce power. And a 15 and 20 that provides quite a nice speed for traffic pattern here. Then down there's the field. We'll take it all the way to the downwind as we're going quite fast already. And that was an okay landing, I would say. A little bit on the positive side. I probably flapped a little bit too high, but that's something we can iron out. Keep in mind, I'm still very new on this plane as well. Okay, so we're on the downwind.
Radar Delta Alpha. Delta Alpha, ja. Das want to reprogram back. Delta Alpha. Da war ich auch.
Delta, Golf Delta, on downwind runway 27 for another touch and go.
Delta Golf Delta, after touch and go, traffic circuit 27, wind calm, runway 27, clear touch and go.
Delta Golf Delta, after touch and go, join traffic circuit 27, runway 27, clear touch and go.
Lufthansa 19 uniform, contact arrival 125, decimal 350, tschüss.
Okay, going to fly out all the way to the highway and then we'll start our base turn. In the meantime, gear down, flaps approach. Fuel pumps on low, and then let's turn base. The scenery is getting a little bit blurry down there. I really hope the simulator's not acting up, because it did earlier today a couple times. Okay, on base, landing flaps, extend.
Condor 05 Alpha, Langnado identified.
And speed down, and let's go ahead. I personally still find it a bit difficult to judge when to start the final turn. That's why I'm doing a really shallow turn here, in order to get myself into profile nicely afterwards.
500.
Okay, 500 continue. Descending down into the poppies.
Proceed to Spresa 386 Topazero.
Oh no, there we go. Internet connection lost, and I don't have a mouse, I don't have controls, nothing works anymore. Lovely Microsoft Flight Simulator. Come on. Here we go, connected. Okay, go around. Nice. That was nice. Okay, so flaps up, gear up, positive rate.
795, descent level 110, reach level at Spesa.
Descent level 110, reach at speed.
Okay, set climb thrust.
Lufthansa 6,
pumps
998,
off.
descent now flight level 110, reach level at Spesa.
Okay, let's hope that that's not going to happen again. I say it and it happens.
Lufthansa 698.
Oh, what on earth? Why is this happening now? Why do they have to have server problems as I'm doing a live stream? Okay, anyway, let's try once more. Okay, we set 1300 feet. Let's also do these power settings a bit more accurate. So, 15 inches, 2000 RPMs, and that should work quite well. Okay, there's the airport. 140 knots in the pattern. Oh, look at that. Quite an obstacle down there. We don't want to fly into that. Okay, let's see if this round is going to get any better. Delta Golf Delta, downwind 27 for touch and go.
Golf Delta, wind is calm, runway 27, clear touch and go, thereafter traffic circuit.
Delta Golf Delta, runway 27, clear touch and go, thereafter traffic circuit. Okay, on the beam position, gear down, boost pumps on.
Ryanair 6506, contact
don't descend on the downwind.
150. Lufthansa 6,
Okay.
998, resume normal speed.
Flaps approach.
Lufthansa 698, normal speed.
Normal speed, Lufthansa 698.
Look at that, the quality of the terrain is degrading there. I seriously hope that that's going to improve again. But yeah, Asobo. On a Friday evening, what would you expect?
Radar, good day, over that 2500, still standing 5000.
Okay, along the highway, let's see.
Radar, hello, identified. Climb flight level 70.
The puppy is inside over there for whites on the base, but that is quite normal.
Lufthansa 7,
500.
Thanks for the ride, 125.
Okay, turn final.
125.
Speed looks good.
Condor 05 Alpha, Montes Honeycomb, ciao.
Over the Unicom, Takeoff and VFR, thank you, ciao.
Landing flaps are out. That was a little bit overshot here. But getting nicely back onto it.
Fraction 17 Foxtrot, contact München on 134.150.
Okay, engines idle.
4150, fraction 17, Foxtrot.
That was a nice one. Okay, let's try one more, and thereafter we're going to leave towards Baden-Baden, where we'll do our IFR stuff. So, thrust set, 80 knots, rotate. Positive rate, tap brakes, gear up. 115 knots, nice. 400 above ground, climb thrust, fuel pumps off. and into the upwind.
5 Papa Mike, radar, hello, identified. Turn left heading 230.
Left turn 230, Lufthansa 5 Mike.
Okay, power setting 15 and 20. That's nice.
Walker 2489, radar, hello, identified. Transfer level 240. Lufthansa 5 Romeo Kilo, descent flight level 110, reach level at Spesa, clear Spesa 3 Bravo.
And 1300 feet, that's our target altitude.
Descent, flight level 110 to reach level at Spesa. And
Okay, thereafter we'll leave the control zone via Whiskey.
say again, please.
Spesa 3 Bravo, arrival.
Spesa 3 Bravo arrival, Lufthansa 5 Kilo.
Delta Golf Delta, downwind 27 for touch and go, thereafter leaving control zone via Whiskey.
Delta Golf Delta, roger. Thereafter leave via Whiskey, wind is calm, runway 27, clear touch and go.
After touch and go, leaving control zone via Whiskey, runway 27, clear touch and go, Delta Golf Delta. Okay, gear down, flaps approach, fuel pumps on.
November Mike, Lage nach hoch, Climb flight level 240.
Landing 240, easy for November Mike.
And the base turn.
Papa Tango, radar, hello, identified. Clear Spesa 3 Bravo.
Speed is coming back nice and slow.
3 Bravo arrival,
Lufthansa 6,
Landing
9,
flaps.
correct arrival 1 to 5, decimal 350.
Maintain the 100 knots in the descent.
350, Lufthansa 698, schönen Abend, ciao.
Okay, a little bit less power, we are a bit high at the moment. But now the radar descent looks good.
Right turn 310, climb flight level 180.
And when we're done with that, we are going to
Aero Beta 01,
continue towards Baden-Baden, where we'll do an IFR pickup, and then continue
500.
IFR.
Order 672, contact Rhein on 134, decimal 075.
Right, what? 4075, 6, right.
And getting back onto the Poppy, very nice. Okay, thrust idle. And we're down. Okay, flaps up and set takeoff thrust.
Radar Lufthansa 5 for Charlie, 202, climbing 240.
Rotate.
340 knots.
5 Romeo Charlie, radar, hello, identified.
Positive rate, gear up. And I would say that was it for the traffic patterns. 400 above ground, reduce thrust, turn off fuel pumps. And then we continue straight ahead to the river, which is the Rhine. And then we'll make the left turn out, climbing 1800 feet. That should keep us nicely within the control zone, which goes up to 2000 feet.
Walker 2489, proceed to NATO.
Okay, 1800. I'm going to use a rather low thrust setting here because we have quite a couple things in
The
the
1 Papa Tango, descent
Baron
level
that we
110,
want to
reach
check
level at Spesa.
during our flight.
0 and the level by Spesa,
So starting the left turn, not above 2000. And then Whiskey is basically over there, next to those couple of lakes that we have over there. Okay, power setting 2020, that should give us a nice and
Lufthansa 4 Mike
slow
Foxtrot, select Rhein,
cruise.
134, decimal 075.
Okay.
Lufthansa 4 Mike Foxtrot, Rhein radar, 134, decimal 075.
134, this was 475 for Lufthansa 4 Mike Foxtrot.
Negative, it's 134, 075.
134, 075. Thanks, bye-bye.
Okay, so the lakes over there, Whiskey, then we can leave the frequency and then we can go ahead and I can talk a little bit about how the airplane actually feels now that we've made a couple experiences.
Langen, hallo, MJ West, 30,
26, Dunana, not 260, flight level, 50 miles azimuth.
India Airways 9930, radar identified, hello, descent, flight level 240.
Sending 240, India Airways 9930.
Delta Golf Delta, over at Whiskey, 1,800 feet, request to leave. And who's responsible for Baden-Baden later on?
Delta Golf Delta, das bin auch ich, and frequency change approved.
Frequency change approved, we called you back prior Baden-Baden. Delta Golf Delta. Alright.
Delta 5 Romeo Charlie, descent, via star
So,
level
that's
110.
the first part of our little flight. Then let's go ahead and we're just about going to maintain some low altitude as we have it right now. So let's talk about how did the plane feel then on these touch and goes. Honestly, I really like the flight dynamics. It feels pretty similar to what I'm used to. So leaving the frequency for now. The plane feels pretty similar to what I would expect from a multi-engine plane like this to feel. I've never flown an actual Baron, however I did fly the I did fly a turbocharged Piper Seneca in real life, so I tend to say I have a bit of an idea of how the plane should feel like, even though I don't know the real one. But the way it feels is really believable. It's certainly a lot of fun, and the most important thing probably, the engines handle really nicely. The turbocharger simulation they've implemented provides for a lot of great detail, like when you increase the thrust you can feel how the engines are slowly lagging behind because the turbocharger increases the RPMs of the, or rather because the increased thrust increases the RPMs of the turbocharger, which in turn increases thrust. That's the reason why there is a little bit of a lag there in the way those engines handle, and that is simulated really nicely. Also, let's turn the prop sync on over here. So we can see how that little thing gets slower and slower, and that basically indicates that the airplane is adjusting the RPMs of the propellers to be matched right now. When that thing comes to a standstill, the engines are turning at the same speed. And they do simulate all this stuff pretty nicely. That's something I really appreciate about the Black Square aircraft. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is the leaning. So the aircraft is equipped with the EDM 760 computer. Now, let me just quickly stabilize this thing in the autopilot. Altitude, heading, autopilot engage. Okay, perfect. So the airplane is equipped with an EDM 760 computer, which is almost fully simulated. If you have the analog Bonanza, then you will be familiar with the EDM 800, which is pretty similar, but for single-engine aircraft. So let's go ahead and start leaning a little bit, which we basically should always do in cruise. We're going to start the whole leaning process by reducing the mixture until the cylinder head temperatures have found their peak and start falling again. Let's go ahead and do that. So, here we go. We can see the mixtures rising there. Oh, sorry, we can see the cylinder head temperatures rising there. And now they're falling again. So we found the peak temperature. So we can go ahead and push them back forward like halfway. And now let's get to the interesting stuff. We'll start with the lean find. So, lean rich of peak. Let's go ahead and do that. And we'll do it now one by one of the engines. Okay, so let's find a perspective where you can actually see me doing that stuff. So we'll start with the left engine. Reducing mixture. You can see that little dot flashing above the 4, and here we go, peak EGT. So now, if we increase this again, we are eventually going to see that little temperature, that one up there, go to about -50. So let's do that. And if we've reached roughly minus 50, that's basically our indication that we have the strongest power available from the engines. So something like this. And we can do the same thing on the other engine now, but... Oops, I've hit the power lever, sorry. But for demonstrational purposes, let's go ahead and actually find the most economic cruising setting. So for that, we hit the step button, then the lean find, and then we basically press both buttons at the same time, for which there is a hidden click spot right in the middle. So now we're going to lean off peak. And if we do that, we are eventually going to get a message over here. Or at least we should. Here we go. Okay, so like that, we are now leaned for the most economical cruising power. And now if we go back, let's go down to the fuel flow setting and disregard the fuel used. That's the remaining endurance, 5 hours and 25 on the fuel that we have loaded in the plane right now. 14.8 gallons total, but what I'm looking for is that one is interesting. The miles that we fly per gallon, which is 8 miles at the moment. Compared to that, in the Bonanza you can get up to around 10 or 12 miles. So the Bonanza is of course a little bit more fuel efficient, which makes sense. But the interesting thing for us really is that, which is the fuel flow of round about 8 gallons per hour per engine. So that is confirmed by looking into the fuel flow gauges up here as well, basically 8 gallons per hour. Now, let's compare that to the performance of the Bonanza. And if we do that, in the Bonanza, we get an economical cruise power setting of roughly 10 gallons per hour. So in this, it's a little bit less per engine, but of course we have 2 engines that we need to power, so things are increasing again because of that. Okay, that's basic engine management in the Baron. Now, there is something else that we quickly need to talk about, and that is the cabin temperature management. So we can see right now we only have 11 degrees centigrade in the cabin. So let's go ahead and pull the air conditioning a little bit, both for the pilot air and the cabin heat. And like that, we also need to turn on the heater, so we do that over here. Heater is on. And if you listen very carefully, you can actually hear the heater operating in the background. Let me turn it off again. And now I'll turn it back on again, and I'm quickly going to shut up so you can actually hear what's going on. Did you hear that in the background there? That's the heater turning on, because the heater in the Baron, contrary to the Bonanza, the heater in the Baron actually is a little combustion chamber that we have located in the nose of the airplane. That's the reason why we have this air intake over here. And that little combustor in the front of the plane, that is basically providing the heating in here. And this is actually quite similar to how these things work on a lot of multi-engine piston aeroplanes. Because it just makes your, you know, it means that you have a separate thing there and you don't have the heaters located in the engines. Of course, that, however, uses fuel, so by operating the heater in the airplane, we are consuming an extra bit of fuel. Okay, so that was our basic idea of what we wanted to do in the VFR part with the Baron. Let's go ahead now and go to the IFR stuff. And I'm going to start by actually programming our flight plan. So, menu, delete, all. And we are going to depart Baden-Baden. And our destination is going to be Stuttgart. So, Baden-Baden, load procedures, departure, and our plan is the Gaxi 1 Zulu departure, which is an on-off departure. We can load that in. And then, in the en route part, we are... Actually, we can remove this once again. So, en route, we need a couple of waypoints there. So, my plan is as follows. I've just set up a little bit of a long way around here. So, after Gaxi, we'll proceed Kilo Romeo Hotel. Thereafter, towards Lima Bravo Uniform. And thereafter, towards Tetgo. Sierra Uniform Lima, and then we'll see. ATC will probably give us a different routing anyway. And thereafter Stuttgart. So, for the routing, let's activate that very first leg over here, and now we're basically set up for our IFR departure. So let's go ahead now and... what we are going to do is basically what we do in flight school all the time. We fly the plane to an IFR airport, we're going to do a touch and go, and after liftoff, we basically go IFR and follow the standard instrument departure. Let's call ATC and coordinate that with it.
QNH 1011.
Also, before we do that, a very quick look into our Navigraph charts once more, so that we know how to fly the VFR part of the arrival. So, coming in will be via Romeo, then we have maximum 2,500 feet towards the airfield. And from there we are going to do a normal touch and go, and then pick up IFR on the touch and go. So over there's our field, over there is our waypoint, so let's quickly take us a direct to go there.
Lufthansa 2 Victor, yeah, Lufthansa 2 Victor, correct arrival 125, altimeter 50.
Arrival 125, Lufthansa 2 Victor, danke tschüss.
On radar, hello again, Delta India November Golf Delta.
India November Golf Delta, radar.
Delta India November Golf Delta, 3 minutes from Romeo at Baden-Baden, and we plan to do a touch and go, and on the touch and go pick up IFR towards Stuttgart as filed.
Delta Golf Delta, then you can also contact Tower on 134.1.
1341, Delta Golf Delta, thanks, see ya. Okay, so they've got a tower online now, even better. Baden Tower, moin, Delta Echo India, correction, Delta India November, Golf Delta.
Delta India November Golf Delta, Run Tower, hello.
Delta India November Golf Delta, Beechcraft 58 with 2 persons from Mannheim, 3 minutes from Romeo for touch and go, and on the touch and go, pick up IFR clearance towards Stuttgart.
Delta Golf Delta, Roger. Enter control zone via Romeo, and Squawk 7003, please.
Entering control zone via Romeo, Squawk 7003, Delta India November Golf Delta.
Delta Golf Delta, active runway 21 and QNH 1010.
Runway 21, QNH 1010, Delta Golf Delta. Okay, set, and it's getting a little bit warm in here. Let's shut that thing off again. By the way, my apologies for the bad-looking scenery out there. Unfortunately, Microsoft decided the servers should go down right now, so we have the default non-photo scenery here. My apologies for that. But we're about on the IFR part anyway, so that should hopefully not matter very much. Okay, so I'm using the GPS right now to navigate to the reporting point, simply because with this scenery out there, well, I don't want to do VFR navigation like that. And of course it has to happen when you're doing a live preview of an aircraft. Ah well, so be it. So, minute 35 to go, and that's it. And Delta Golf Delta, did you copy our request for the IFR departure?
Delta Golf Delta, copied, call back.
Roger. Okay, so for now we simply continue towards Romeo and thereafter into the control zone. So let's use that little bit of time that we have right now to quickly review the SID that we're about to fly.
Delta Golf Delta, ready to copy clearance?
Delta Golf Delta, ready to copy.
Delta Golf Delta, after touch and go, you are cleared to Stuttgart, taxi 6 Papa departure, right route, then climb via SID at level 70, and squawk 2034 please.
Delta Golf Delta, clear, after touch and go, cleared Stuttgart Galaxy 6 Papa departure, flight plan route, climb level 70, squawk 2034. Do you want us to change the squawk on the touch and go or now?
Delta Golf Delta, squawk change on touch and go please.
On the touch and go, Delta Golf Delta, and we're over at Romeo, 2000 feet.
Delta Golf Delta, roger. Wind 180 degrees, 4 knots, runway 21, clear to touch and go.
Romeo 21, clear touch and go, Delta Golf Delta. Okay, so different SID than planned. Let's quickly put that in. Select departure, Galaxy. Okay, we've got 5 Papa in here because the database is outdated, but that's alright. So, activate the first lag, please. Here we go. So, Galaxy 6 Papa departure, that is gonna be this one over here. So, straight at 8 Yumi Kilo Bravo Delta, left turn towards Galaxy. That's... So we need frequencies 15.8. Which is active now. 15.8, and then we need the ADF on 412, and that's pretty much it, and 16.85. So 16.85, 412, active, ready. Okay, down there is our runway. Autopilot off. Throttles to idle. And I might be a little bit high right now, but watch that. If we increase the prop RPMs, we're going to increase our drag. So I'll put them fully forward. Mixture fully forward. Then our speed is good. Gear down. And now watch it. As I'm about to lower the flaps, this thing is going to go down like a brick. Flaps down. Fuel pumps on. Okay, configured for landing. And down we go. Definitely coming in a little bit high. But, look at that. We can be on the ground here.
Sync rate.
That is expected.
Pull up.
I'm going to inhibit the TORS.
$500.
So this is a maneuver that we would fly often in flight school, But of course we would have an instructor available to us who would be doing a little bit of our airplane configuration stuff. Since we don't have the flight instructor available right now, we will have to do things slowly, but then again we have a long runway, so we can go ahead and do that. Okay, idle thrust. Touchdown, flaps up. Okay, squawk 2034. So, props full forward, mixture full forward, flaps up, ready. Power set. 80 knots, rotate. Positive rate, gear up, and we are IFR. Okay, set climb thrust. 2500 set flight level 70. There we go.
Delta, contact Langen radar on 125.200.
125.2, Delta Golf Delta, danke, tschüss.
Schönen Abend noch.
Ebenso.
18 Kilo.
Okay, that's what I call a radar climb.
Arrival is your star. Descend via star, level 110.
That's what I call a rated climb here, 3,000 feet a minute. Okay, and cabin pressurization on, door seals on. Let's get the cabin climbing.
Bed level 110 of the
Mount Eagle 536, back in cockpit.
Mount Eagle 536, right on time like a German, contact München 134.
Right on time like a German. Nice one.
134 is 150, Mount Eagle 536. Thank you for the service,
See you, Delta Delta Oscar, turn left heading 070. Left heading 070, Delta India Lima Delta Oscar.
Radar, hello, Delta India November Golf Delta, passing flight level, correction, passing 4,700, climbing flight level 70, Galaxy 6 Papa departure.
You're not afraid that was the big kilo.
Delta, Golf, Delta, radar, hello, identified 5,300 feet, climb flight level 140.
Climb flight level 140, Delta, Golf Delta. Set, 140 tracked. Okay, set altimeter standard.
Kilometer 01, frequency change approved, choose.
Standard set, passing level 62, climbing level 140.
Bye bye, Condor 7 for November, contact arrival on 125.
Okay.
50.
So, let's go ahead and put on the autopilot for our navigation. So, put it on nav, vertical speed, and then give me 3,000 feet a minute, please. Autopilot, engage. Okay, autopilot is flying. So, the next thing we're going to do is a little bit of standard IFR flying stuff, so that we can see how the airplane performs
Delta Golf
under
Delta,
those
proceed direct
conditions.
Delta, Sierra 533.
Delta Golf Delta actually requests to continue on the filed route for now. We're looking to fly the plane all the way up to the service ceiling of flight level 250 if that's possible.
Delta Golf Delta, Rheinradar is not accepting you today, so flight level 240 would be maximum. Are you fine with that?
Is there any chance you could try and coordinate that?
Delta Golf Delta, I can try. Climb flight level 240 for now.
Delta Golf Delta climb 240, yeah, would be perfect as we are on a maintenance acceptance flight, so it would be good if we can make the service ceiling. Okay, set, 240 track.
landing radar, good snap and
So yeah, the service ceiling is 250, however, the boundary between the airspace of the lower German airspace and the upper airspace is level 245. That's why they have to do a little bit of coordination there in order to make it possible that we can actually climb level 250. But otherwise, we'll be happy at 240 as well. Anyway, we've passed 10,000, so let's have a quick look into the pressurization. and the cabin is climbing, but I'm going to increase the cabin rate of climb a bit, because we turned the pressurization on a little bit too late, so let's give us 1,000 feet a minute rate of climb in order not to exceed the maximum differential pressure there.
Panzer 1712, Bravo to Bravo, descent via star, level
And reduce the rate of climb a little bit. The plane can climb at a really good rate and good speed, but looks like the plane is actually climbing faster than what we can do at the moment.
Panzer 551, proceed to Zulu.
Okay, also let's get the heater on again. Starts getting a little cold, and it will only get colder. So, we're now making that left turn, as per the chart, and we are looking to intercept. Looking to intercept the radial 261 inbound to Sierra Tango Golf VOR. Or the QDR 085 from Sierra Echo NDB. So Sierra Echo is active on the ADF, and then we can set 081 on the course selector over here, and like that we can basically fly the entire set. Okay, cabin is actually still not climbing fast enough. Oh, I see the problem, I didn't turn it up high enough. That's it. Okay, let's bring that cabin up a little bit faster now, 1,500 feet a minute. That is of course a really fast cabin rated climb, so you would absolutely feel that in your ears. But yeah, that happened because I didn't turn the cabin pressurization system on early enough. And those first couple of, those first minute or two would have been crucial there. But well, it is what it is right now, so let's give it at that. Also landing and taxi lights can go off. So look at that performance of the airplane over here. We're doing 1,500 feet a minute, passing level 150, and the thing goes 175 knots with that. Let's actually give it 2,500 feet a minute once more. The cabin is under control down there. Something else to notice here. If you remember earlier in the flight, when we turned the heater on for the first time, the cabin went up to 30 degrees centigrade with the heaters pulled only to a position like this. Now I've got them over here, and the cabin is just doing 17 degrees. And the reason behind that is quite an interesting one, because it actually is that the reason actually is that the airplane takes into account 134075. Delta Golf Delta, vielen lieben Dank. Okay. Master warning, cabin differential pressure. Yeah, okay, we're climbing too fast. The cabin can't follow.
California Bravo when ready, descend to reach level 25 to Incl.
Okay, warning's out again. Let's give it 2,000 feet a minute then. Rheinreiter, hello, Delta India November Golf Delta, passing level 182, climbing 240, request 250.
Okay, the mode of Delta Rhein identified, hello, climb level 25 to request attention.
Climb level 250, intentions is to maintain that level for a few minutes for maintenance purposes, and thereafter we'll descend again. Delta, Golf Delta.
Delta, Roger.
Okay, so. That's pretty much this, so.
Do you need that exact route or can I offer you vectors instead?
Delta, Golf Delta, we're happy for any vector.
What the? I call you in a moment.
Drop. So, cabin differential warning is on. That's because, once again, the plane is climbing faster than the cabin can climb. So we're putting it into the differential pressure limit down there. Also, let's quickly turn this all the way up. So let's have a look into what we see on the cabin altitude controller down there. Basically, in order to make level 250, which is the airplane service ceiling, we need to get a cabin altitude of 12,500 feet. So, under European standards, that would actually not be legal. So under European standards, you would be limited to a cabin altitude at 10,000 feet, which equals 22,000 feet indicated altitude. So under European standards, you couldn't fly all the way to the service ceiling. But under US standards, it's different, so in the US you can do this. And for our purposes, since we are just doing a check flight and demonstration over here, we can definitely do it as well. So, we've passed over 20,000 feet, and this is the critical altitude of the aircraft's turbocharger. And what that means is basically what you can see over here. Previously, with the throttles all the way into the full position, we always had the manifold pressure at 39 inches. However, since we are above the critical altitude now, the turbocharger is no longer able to compress the outside air sufficiently to maintain the pressure that we have down here on the manifold pressure gauge. And the result is that now, above the critical altitude, we are losing power just like we would on a normally aspirated aircraft. And therefore, in order to maintain the best mixture to power ratio, we actually need to lean the airplane as we are climbing. So let's go ahead and do that. Lean it down a bit. And you can actually see the fuel flow increasing there as I am reducing my mixture setting. So now we're set up for maximum power once again when we have the best fuel flow there. Okay, wanna go? Vertical speed 1000. And we're about to enter a couple of clouds, so let's make sure that we've got all the de-icing equipment on. Okay. So, that's pretty much it. 500 to go. I'm just not sure. Did he clear us to level 250 already? And Delta Golf Delta confirmed the cleared flight level.
Level 250.
Level 250 Delta Golf Delta. Set 250 checked. Okay, the cabin altitude is almost all the way up. Can we get that to climb a bit faster? No, not really, okay. But that's fine for me. So we're looking at level 250, that's somewhere over there on the controller. Cabin altitude is now above 10,000. As said, in Europe that would not be legal, in the US it is. So that's the reason the plane can do it. Okay, so we are almost up. Then Beluga on PC is asking, does the airplane have an autopilot? Yes, absolutely it has. And we're actually flying on the autopilot at the moment. Autopilot controls are down here. We can see we've got a couple basic modes like altitude, heading, navigation, approach, back course. And then up here we can select our target altitude and we can go to vertical speed mode. So that's the autopilot. And talking about the autopilot, that is quite something worthy of mentioning in this airplane as well, because the autopilot feels a little bit sluggish in this airplane, but that is actually exactly what I've experienced from most general aviation aircraft that I have flown so far. The autopilots in those things just aren't perfect, and this one isn't either. But it does really nice what it's actually doing, so it feels quite good. Okay, so leveling off at flight level 250. At least I hope so. We're on standards. 2 times, yeah. And by the way, look at the cabin temperature down there, which is showing us 11 degrees once again. We actually gotta pull them all the way out now. Why did it climb 100 feet higher? That's interesting. Delta Golf Delta for heading 030. Delta Golf Delta heading 030. Okay, 030, heading select. Alright, so, Ben,
724 connect with radar 134.
Let's see how fast this thing actually goes at this altitude. The current outside temperature is minus 35. So let's go ahead and rotate this up. We're looking for the, up here that's our altitude, and that's our, that is our temperature. So we're looking minus 35 degrees at flight level 250.
Nothing further, Unicom, bye-bye.
So something like this. So let's see, we have 240 knots down there, so we're probably doing something like 260, 270 knots right now. More like 270. Okay, let's go ahead and set something that is a little bit more realistic for cruise then. So, let's say we take something like 30 inches manifold.
Delta heading, correction to left heading 360.
Golf Delta left heading 360. Okay, and now let's go ahead and lean it out and see what kind of fuel usages we are going to get. So we'll start Ridge or Peak.
2Jet 5, Papa Golf, proceed to Route 6.
And let's see what we can get it to. Reducing mixture right now. And here we go, Peak EGT. Now we could increase this again in order to get the maximum power from our engines. That should be somewhere over here. So now we've pretty much got maximum power from our engines. As we can see, checking this once again, we're doing something in the region of around 270 knots right now, which is an incredible true airspeed for, well, a private airplane. Okay, so now, however, let's go ahead and find out what the most economical setting is. So we'll click the step button, then lean find, then press both at the same time, that we get the lean peak option over here. Now let's go ahead and start decreasing our mixture. And here we go. So, as we can see now, we have basically got around 18 gallons per hour per engine, giving us a speed of 270 knots. So, while we are going really fast, we have to keep something in mind. We're going fast, but we're actually using more fuel up here than we would be using at lower altitudes. So if we check this once more, and we find the miles per gallon, where is it? Here we go, 7.8 nautical miles per gallon of fuel. And we have a total range of 524 nautical miles. So that is the performance that we get from the plane up here at altitude. Alright, so I would say we've pretty much checked what we wanted to check. The other thing here, we have the cabin altitude light illuminated, but that is to be expected because our cabin altitude is above 12,000. So 12,000 you're gonna get that light. One last thing that we can quickly demonstrate up here. You can see that we have flown out like a quarter of the main tank quantities, and we are flying for 62 minutes right now. So what we can do now, we have a little bit of fuel in the tip tanks here, they are halfway full. So let's turn on the fuel pumps. Delta Golf Delta, right heading 090, and we'll be ready for descent in about 2 minutes. Okay, heading 090. Okay, so fuel pumps from low. Now we can turn on the tip tank transfer pump, observe the green light, and now it's going to transfer the fuel from the tip tanks into our main fuel tanks. So that is going to take a couple minutes now that we have to wait for. And then we'll be all set up and ready to go. So, look at the cabin temperature now. It's finally reached some warm temperatures here, 33 degrees. Let's go ahead and close those again. And that looks good to me. Okay, that's all I can demonstrate to you up here at altitude. So, I'm going to request descent again.
Contact Langen Radar 125, that's 2. 1252 for Ocean 5 Charlie, Dankeschön, ab. Danke ebenso.
Delta Golf Delta, request descent. They're probably coordinating right now, so I'm just about to wait a little bit. Then, JFoot 709, how much would lean off peak reduce the fuel consumption? Roughly by some 4... 125.2, Delta Golf Delta, ciao. Roughly by some 4 gallons per hour. Tangrad, hello, Delta India November Golf Delta, heading 090, flight level 251, request descent.
Delta India November Golf Delta, hello, identified, descent flight level 200.
Descent flight level 200, Delta, Golf Delta. Set, 200 checked. Okay, let's do 1,000 feet a minute downwards. Let's see what kind of speed we're gonna get. I'm going to keep the power at the cruise power setting, and that way we'll get to the little bit more interesting stuff. Okay, apart from that, we can see how the fuel is slowly transferring. So the fuel in the tip tanks is reducing, while the fuel quantity in the main tanks is slowly increasing there. We'll descend all the way to Stuttgart, which is located at roughly 1,000 feet if I'm not mistaken, but we'll look into the charts in a few moments so that we can actually find out the proper values. Okay, and the cabin doesn't need to descend so quickly. We can do some 500 feet a minute over here to keep it nice and easy on our ears. Basically, the 10 o'clock position is a good position for the cabin rate switch to be in. Okay, here we go. Nice! So, let's go ahead and check our arrival information for Stuttgart, and we should have an ATIS online on 126125.
Lufthansa 6415, descent flight level 110, reach level H, Spesa, clear Spesa, Bravo.
14,985 inches trend, no beach Stuttgart information echo, out attention. Departure frequency
615, flight level 110, Spesa.
Radar on frequency 125.200. Showing radar information echo. And report time 2020.
61 Alpha, radar identified, hello, reduce speed 25, oder?
Reduce speed 25, level 70. Wind variable 1 knot. Cab OK. Temperature 10. 2.4 QNH 1011 hectopascals. 14,985 inches trend.
Say again?
No beach Stuttgart information echo.
Okay, so expecting the ILS approach runway 25 at Stuttgart, so let's go ahead and find a couple of approach charts and start the preparation for that. So, Stuttgart approach, and we have the ILS runway 25, most likely radar vector, but I don't really care what it's going to be. So 109.9, and we can quickly load that up in our FMS as well. Stuttgart, ILS 25, vectors, load approach, yes please. Oh, 109.9 and 109.9 can go active on number 2 already. And then for the missed approach, what are we gonna need? Straight at 4.2 or 5.6 from Stuttgart, so we'll take 16.85. Just about gonna switch that active already. Thereafter it's gonna be right turn 35.
Heading 160, descent flight level 150, vectors ILS 25.
Delta Golf Delta, right heading 160, descent flight level 150, vector ILS 25.
Swiss 1 Papa Golf.
150 check,
Correction, Swiss
heading
1 Papa Golf.
160.
Fury is offline. No,
Right.
Fury approach is online. Contact arrival
alt.
on 135,
And
25. Bye.
that's what we need. Okay, also really nice to see the speed over here. 205 indicated, so we're probably doing something like, I don't know, 300 knots true airspeed right now? Or rather close to it? Yannis, interesting question there. Can we do an ILS approach without an altimeter? Yes, we can. Because the vertical guidance comes from the ground profile, from the flight club antenna.
Lufthansa 101, correct München, 134.
Okay, and then we need Lubock VOR 109.2.
Lufthansa 101, 134, 150.
Okay, so that should be our setup. For the minimums, we are looking for 1,381, which is 200 on the radio altimeter, and that is pre-selected up here already.
367 Charlie Papa, and right heading
Okay,
35.
perfect. That should be all we need for the approach. So it's going to be a radar vector ILS approach, runway 25, starting at Unter in 4,000
367
feet.
Charlie, and right
3-degree glide path
35.
down to a minimum of 1,381. Missed approach straight out on radial 252 Stuttgart until 5.6 DME. Right turn heading 339 till passing radial 277. Right turn radial 233 inbound Lubock VOR. Climbing to an altitude of 5,000.
Ryanair 123, contact
And that should be
arrival
our entire
125,
approach. Okay. So that's the approach briefing completed, and with that we are pretty much
Ryanair
all set up
125,
for our
350.
approach. Let's see, how many miles do we have left then? 32 miles, and that should bring us in pretty much straight. Okay, let's increase our rate of descent here. Let's do 2,000 feet a minute. And by the way, I did not touch the thrust levers or the throttles at all in the descent. See how the manifold pressure has increased from the 30 inches that we'd set previously to 37 inches. The reason for that is, since we have descended back in below the critical altitude, the turbocharger is now able, at full thrust, to provide us manifold pressure all the way to the red line. Let me show that for a moment. So watch the throttles going up now, and the engine's going all the way to the red line at 18,500 feet. But for now, let's take it back to something around 30 or so that we can actually continue our descent here.
61 Alpha, radar identified, descent flight level.
So Stuttgart Airport is located roughly at 1,000 feet, so that's what I've set on the cabin pressure target.
67 Charlie,
And let's increase the cabin rate of descent a bit. We've got 8,000 feet to cover, and we'll take roughly 10 to 15 minutes to make it down to the ground. So something in the region 800 feet a minute should be a good rate of descent for the cabin.
Lima, proceed to Spesa, descent level 110, reach level edge Spesa.
Okay, so what are we going to do then? Well, we'll start by flying a radar vectored ILS approach, and thereafter we are going to do a non-precision approach, for which, however, we are going to use guidance by the GTN 750. So, or shall we get guidance from the GTN for the non-precision approach, or shall we do it the old-fashioned way? You decide, guys. You decide.
Lufthansa 6415, correct climb for the
Okay,
radar
and in the meantime, we can quickly go procedure activate bike justify. Okay, nice.
Ocean 5 Charlie, contact arrival 125.
Okay, Doc Trench, flying JJ, both saying old-fashioned way. Okay, so we are going to do the non-precision approach the old-fashioned way.
Descent flight level 70.
Delta Golf Delta, descent flight level 70. Set. 70 checked, 2,000 feet a minute. Should give us a good rate of descent here. As you can see, we are some 22 miles from the Fox India, so 20 miles from Unser. We can get some VNAV guidance here as well, however, that's purely optional.
Funky 2, Langen.
We could do it ourselves as
Target 2
well.
airborne, Rotenburg off the tower, request into airspace, Charlie climbing flight level 130
Okay.
for parachute topping.
Oh no, we don't have guidance on this one.
Again, requested level.
We'll actually do it
Target 2,
ourselves.
level 130. Monkey 2, Roger, clear to enter
we are
airspace,
not
Charlie
gonna
climb flight
level
level 130. Entering airspace,
Vertical
Charlie
speed.
climbing flight level 130, Monkey 2, reporting ready to drop.
That's what we want to do.
7 Charlie, contact arrival 125, decimal 35, stop.
And G Walker, just follow the road again. I wish, but earlier on the Microsoft servers have died, so I'm sitting here with default, ugly, non-photorealistic scenery, so no, I'm not gonna follow any route like that. Any road like that.
Delta Golf Delta, turn right heading 200, descent 4,000 feet, QNH 1011.
Delta Golf Delta, turn right heading 200, descent 4,000, QNH 1011. Come on. There we go, 4,000. Set altimeter 1011. Once and twice. Temperature is getting pretty hot now. Let's just turn the heater off. Okay, final approach course 252, we can pre-select that. And here we go.
Identified, proceed to Spesa, thereafter Spesa, 3 Bravo.
So, the altitude arrow is just before the FAF, very nice. A little level of banana over here. So our current rate of descent is actually quite good for what we want to do. Let's see how the cabin is coming along. 7,000 feet now, we better gotta increase that rate a little bit. Let's do 1,000 feet a minute on the cabin there.
261 Alpha, descent, flight, correction. 261
Okay,
Alpha.
let's use the moment while it lasts to have a look at the checklists that are provided with the Baron. So, we've got standard before starting engine checklist, and we've got 3 engine start checklists, and you will need all 3 depending on the situation that you're in. So the cold start is basically what you are going to use when you load up the airplane for the first time in a simulator session. Your hot start is what you'd use once you shut the engine down already. So as you can see, quite some different procedures here. If we go into the hot start checklist, basically it tells us to put the mixtures off, prop high RPMs, and then boost pump on for 10 to 20 seconds, then boost pumps off, mixture full rich, throttle full open, then the boost pump on for 2 to 3 seconds, and then you are basically going to start the engine as normal. Compared to that, in the normal cold engine start, you're not going to do this 10 to 20 seconds priming the engine. So that way around, we've got all those little differences in the engines simulated there. Also, if we go along over here, we've got a lot of non-normal checklists, like for example here, starter does not disengage, so that's what you are supposed to do. Or for example, we have engine fire on the ground checklist, which basically tells you shut everything off as quickly as possible, and so on. So, a lot of nice stuff down there that we lots of nice stuff, and once we are done with the IFR stuff that we want to do at Stuttgart, we are actually going to leave the Stuttgart CTR towards Freiburg, and at Freiburg we are going to do a little bit of engine failure stuff. So that's the plan for the remainder of the live stream. So how are we doing? 15 miles out, 8,000, still a little bit high. But you know what? This thing can drop like a brick, and I'm going to show you.
Sorry, the text should be sending now. 110 to be reached Spesa.
So look at that. The power is down at 15, and the speed stays, actually slightly reduces, and we're doing 3,000 feet a minute. Isn't that just crazy? However, with the engine RPM this low, watch the cabin. The thing doesn't have enough power anymore to control the rate of climb or descent of the cabin. So that's the reason why we're not supposed to do this in the descents. But anyway, that is quite fine for us. We're approaching the glide slope now, so let's give it like 1,000 feet a minute. And then our cabin altitude basically almost equals our actual altitude. So what I'm going to do here, I will simply depressurize the airplane. So release the seals, dump the pressure. Now watch this. And now the cabin altitude is basically going to become equal to the
Monkey 2, roger, descent flight level 100.
outside
Descending 100, Monkey 2.
altitude once again. So now we've got to be a little bit more careful with our rates of climate
And
descent.
the one thing uniform descent at 3000 feet per minute.
Descending at 3000 feet per minute, another one thing airborne.
Lufthansa 4, Hotel Tango, descent flight level 110, reach level edge später.
Delta Golf Delta is ready for the final turn.
Lufthansa 770, speed 250 knots, descent flight level 110 to reach
Hey, a
edge
bit more
später.
power. We don't want to get too slow, do we?
250 knots, descend level 110 to reach us, Lufthansa 770.
Delta Golf Delta, ready to turn final.
Delta Golf Delta, tut mir leid, turn right heading 320.
Right, 320, Delta Golf Delta.
Long radar. 189 flight level.
Hey, 500 feet a minute rate of
This one at
descent.
Niner, identified
Let's see if we can
for
maintain a
flight level
CDA
220.
over here, but I kind of doubt it.
Flight level 189.
But we'll
The
see.
125, correct arrival, 125, decimal 350.
Metal Eye, can I fly Echo Delta Tango Quebec after Stuttgart? Just 25 kilometers. Well, I don't have any scenery there, so I prefer to go where I have scenery. My apologies.
Leave, choose, Monkey 2.
But 132, correct München radar, 123, decimal 9.
So, first things
Delta Golf
first.
Delta, descent 3000 feet.
Delta Golf Delta descend 3,000 feet.
Lufthansa 6, kilo my cabin, 102 knots, inbound, aspect flight level 240 and speed 220, corrected.
Okay, so here's the idea. Normally, when you're flying an airplane like this and you fly it on VATSIM, you will somehow have to fit in between all the airlines. So here's what I'm about to do. I'm going to fly the speed at 180 knots.
Delta Golf Delta, left to 80, cleared RS to 5.
Delta Golf Delta left to 80, cleared LS to 5. I'm going to maintain the speed at 180 knots, pretty much until we are established on the final. So, Warthog is active and approach mode armed. Looks like we have localizer capture.
Boeing 37 Lima, identified for the climb flight level 220.
Climb flight level 230, Boeing 230 Lima.
Boeing 37 Lima, confirmed 220.
220, sorry, Boeing 37 Lima.
Okay, that's an interesting intercept heading that it went to there. Certainly shouldn't do that.
Thunder 2, Romeo Mike.
Give me heading
Radar low,
select once more.
identified. Cleared später, correction, cleared Farbour to Bravo Ravel.
Give Harbour to Bravo arrival, potato.
I'll have to cheat a little bit here and kind of manually fly towards the ILS. I don't quite understand why it just... So now the localizer comes, approach armed, and now you may capture, my friend. Here we go. Delta Golf Delta established, and request a touch and go for a non-precision approach thereafter.
Delta Golf Delta, roger, contact now, tower, he will have the climb on instruction, 1188.
1188, Delta Golf Delta.
Flight level 220.
Thunder 66 Mike.
Stuttgart Tower Low, Delta India November Golf Delta, established ILS 25 for touch and go.
Delta Golf Delta, Tower Gute, with Ravel 1 knot,
Runway 25, clear touch and go, Delta Golf Delta, and confirm the procedure after the touch and go.
Delta Golf Delta, publish missed.
Publish missed, Delta Golf Delta. Okay, that makes it easiest. So, 5 miles out. At 4 miles, we're going to start reducing our speed. That way, you will be able to see that you can easily fit a Baron in between all the IFR stuff that you would normally find on VATSIM. So, 4 miles, idle thrust. We're gonna get the landing gear warning for a little bit, but that is fine. Also, I'm increasing the RPMs to maximum. So let's see, we can put the tip tank pumps off, landing lights on, and the speed is coming back nicely. Also, we can turn off the anti-ice. Ooh, that's a little nice turbulence there. So, autopilot off, we'll fly the rest ourselves. Then, gear down.
$500.
500, continue. Don't be surprised if the puppy seems totally wrong. That's just, well, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, gear down, flaps down, props full forward, fuel pumps on, landing checks complete. Okay. Honestly, that glide slope, where's that leading us? Into the airport fence? Look at that! I'm following the glide slope, and that is much too low. I'm gonna crash into the lights if I do this. Oh. Welcome to Stuttgart. Flaps up. Add thrust. Off we go. Rotate. Hey, 2,500 RPMs. 5,000 feet altitude, and we are going to follow the GPS missed approach procedure.
Delta Golf Delta, contact Langenräder 125.
125, das will 2, Delta Golf Delta.
Langenfeld, das ist the 1 Tango X-Ray, flight level 22, Overhaul inbound instead.
The 1 Tango X-Ray, radar identified.
2,000 to go. Now let's put the autopilot on. Vertical speed. 2000, autopilot. So, autopilot's flying.
Stand by.
And we have 1 to go.
Sundet to Romeo Mike, reduce speed to 70.
The vertical speed 1000, please.
270 knots, Sundet to Romeo Mike.
On radar low, Delta India November Golf Delta, 4,300 km, 5,000, standard missed approach at Stuttgart.
Delta Golf Delta, roger.
Okay, so that's the ILS then. As we can see, 180 knots till 4 miles. Well, till 5 miles would have been better if we're honest. But overall, we can see it works.
6 km, confirm speed is 290 or greater.
So let's start reducing thrust a little bit already. So next up we're going to fly the non-precision approach, and let's have a look into the charts to see what options we have there. So for Stuttgart 2.5 we've got, well, RMP or VOR. We said we didn't want to use the, we said we did not want to use the GPS for it. In other words, we have to fly the VOR approach. So what's the thing about then? We need 1685. And I'm just going to set that up now already. Okay, so 16.85, and that is active on both sides. Final approach track 252. Starting the approach at Unser in 4000, 3-degree glide. And we've got our check altitudes up here, 3.2 miles, we verify 2,410, minimum 1,590, and that gives us around 400 feet on the radio.
Climb flight level 130, clear to enter.
There we go, 410 set on the radio, as our minimum. Okay.
Delta Golf Delta, climb flight level 70.
Delta Golf Delta, climb flight level 70, and we'll request the VOR approach from it. That. Under check. Here we go, 1,000 Well, we can do
Delta Golf
2000
Delta,
feet a
turn
minute.
right heading 070.
Takeoff Delta, turn right heading 070.
Lufthansa 2 Alpha Alpha, descend 4000 feet, QNH 1011.
Okay, heading 070, heading select.
Lufthansa 2 Alpha Alpha, descent, altitude 4000 feet.
Good, set standard.
Lufthansa 6 Kilo Mike, correct arrival 125.35.
A little bit cold once again.
125.37, Dankeschön, I'm not
On the heater on once more.
Thunder 2 Romeo, Mike, contact, Langen on
And
125.
we've got one to go. 1000 feet a minute.
125, decimeter 350, Thunder 2.
Dock Trench, shame there's no NDB approach, those are fun. Yeah, indeed,
Lufthansa
but
66 Mike, reduce speed
yeah,
225.
we gotta live with whatever we have.
Lufthansa 66 Mike,
Okay, let's get something useful up on the GPS. We are just going to take the TCAS page there, that's always something good. So, remaining stuff for us to do. We've briefed the approach, so let's quickly look into what we are going to do after the approach, which is going to be a cancellation of IFR, and then we'll continue VFR. So, very quick look into the VFR charts for Stuttgart. Here we have them once again.
4 X-ray Mike, Sierra Mike, descend.
So, aerodrome, Sierra, and then we're
Siberian
looking
727,
for
descend level
Stuttgart.
110, reach level at Spesa.
Flight level 1.
That seems to be what we need. Yeah, that's what we need. Okay, so we are going to leave via Lima then, which is straight out and then a left turn towards that little TV tower down there, and climb to a maximum 3,500 feet. Okay, we can do that.
4 X-ray Mike, Sierra Mike, turn right.
Okay, so with that we are pretty much fully prepared. Now something that I didn't quite understand yet. We saw this at higher altitude, and we are seeing it here again. The plane busted the altitude by about 100 feet. That's kind of something that is something that I will write the developer about, because I have a feeling that that's actually a bug.
1,500 operator.
Okay, so for us for now, let's go 30
4 X-ray Mike, Sierra Mike,
inches and 2,500 RPMs. We can also do a quick and dirty leaning right now. But that's just going to be quick and dirty, so all the way up till the temperatures start dropping again, which is now, and then we just put it up forward a little bit more. Okay, look at that, the plane stabilized 100 feet above the selected altitude. Let's see if I can actually force it to maintain level 70 by dialing in 6,900 now. Because it did the same thing when we've been up at cruise level. So I'm a little bit worried right now that this is actually a bug there. However, bug or not, I'm surprised that barely any of you has actually asked for a release date yet. Because truth is, I know about a release date. Or at least a planned release date. We have to be fair enough on that topic. So, I really like the Baron in the shape that it is right now already. The little altitude thing there is something that still needs sorting out. However, the planned release date is next Thursday, the 23rd of March. In 2023, so Thursday 23rd of March, that is where the plane is planned to be released. So, as always, you know these things, a planned release date can shift the last way, so that's something to keep in mind. However, it is only about a week off, so this thing will be on your computer very shortly. In the meantime, if you have the Bonanza, that's a perfect plane to prepare for the Baron, because they're actually quite similar to one another. You will see the cockpit layout is almost the same, and enjoy the Bonanza while you have it. Also, owners of the Bonanza are going to get 25% off the Baron. Okay, that's some traffic over there. How far is he out? Okay. Lufthansa 2 Alpha Alpha. Gonna keep an eye on that. But that's probably the reason we're flying out a little bit further.
flying direct.
Arrow EN, where did you learn to speak English like you are?
1077,
Well, that's a good question, honestly. I started speaking English like really early in my life, so I basically grew up with the language, and then I spent like 3/4 of a year in England and Scotland.
Ryanair 1077, correct, direct Delta Sierra 512.
Direct Delta.
And Doc Trench, I've had the altitude bug in other GA planes as well. Yeah, basically, the way this works is the autopilot in the analog aircraft from Black Square is an enhanced interface, but controlling the default autopilot. So I suppose it is actually a bug with the default autopilot then that's not able to maintain the correct altitude. But nonetheless, I will send the developer an email after this live stream, and we'll ask him for any input. Maybe he's got a quick solution, or maybe it's just something in my system as well. Both could very well be the case, but we'll see about it.
Takeoff Delta, Reiter 160.
Takeoff Delta, Reiter 160. Okay, so this time, contrary to the previous approach, we are not going to fly those insane speeds of 180 knots all the way down to 5 miles. But this time we want a more stabilized approach, so we're going to bring it down to 120. And the reason I'm deciding on 120 over here is because the approach chart actually have a speed limit drawn in for those 100 and, or not a speed limit, but they have a recommended vertical speed here for those 120. So as we can see over here, that's 637 feet a minute that we'll need when we're doing 120 knots in order to fly the vertical profile of this arrival.
Thank you for your service. Good evening.
And getting quite hot again. Cabin temperature management is still something that I need to get better in this airplane, but it works. It gets us where we want to go. That's
Delta, 5,000 feet, QNH 1011.
Takeoff Delta, descend 5,000, 1011.
Takeoff Delta, dann Reiter 220.
Right 220, Takeoff Delta.
KLM 3 Mike Golf, contact.
Okay, where's that guy going?
Radar.
Ryanair 1077, 300 miles.
Actually go to
That
Incl.
might be going into Stuttgart as well. I'll rather tell the controller about our slower speed early then. Langen Delta, Golf Delta, for your information, from the final approach fix, we'll do 120 knots.
Delta, Golf Delta, okay, Roger. Golf Delta, is that okay? Can you do faster?
Well, not really on the non-precision approach, because we need to control the altitude manually and therefore need a constant speed, so well, stand by one, we're gonna plan something. Stand by one, I call you.
Thank you. Ryanair 1077, reduce speed 220 knots or less.
Let's see if we can find a solution for that controller.
I will call you in a minute then.
Let's see. If we do 160, we need 850 feet a minute.
Takeoff Delta, cleared VOR, approach runway 25.
Takeoff Delta, cleared VOR 25, and we can do 160 if that's good for you.
Takeoff Delta, that would be perfect.
Roger. Okay, then we'll do 160, then we've got to maintain 850 feet a minute. That is of course going to be very, very quick. But if that's what it is, then that's what it is. Okay, so... Yeah, shit. We've missed the center line because we've still been on GPS guidance. Okay. So let's get rid of those charts and start flying an approach.
Bavarian 727, descent flight level 110
Autopilot off.
feet per minute or greater.
Flight level 110.
Ryanair 1077, descent 5,000 feet, QNH 1011.
So the FAF is at 8.2 miles in 4,000 feet. We're cleared for the approach, so we can go down to 4,000.
Right.
And we've got a 1011.
Monkey 2, frequency change.
Monkey 2, gut verlebt das an letzten Förder. Tschüss.
So.
Danke.
So, 160 knots. And 8.2 miles is the final approach fix.
Clip Farbour to Bravo arrival, reduce speed to 50 knots.
Distance from 3 Bravo.
Farbour to Bravo, speed to 50.
And at 8.4 miles, we're going to start our descent.
4 X-ray Mike 0 Mike, descent flight level 110.
110,
So established on the final.
Siberian 727, proceed.
4,000 feet of altitude. We're going to maintain that for now. Okay, then let's see how that approach is going to go. We'll start the descent at
19er Romeo, turn left heading to
8.2 miles Sierra Tango Golf.
level 150.
And to make things a bit more interesting, let's do this.
So
that I can't cheat by looking outside.
Flight level 110, reach level edge Pesa, reduce speed to 60 knots.
Speed 260.
8.2 miles, start the descent, 850 feet a minute.
Lufthansa 4 kilo X-ray.
Runner 1077, cleared ILS.
Okay, it's 7 miles, 3,620.
Yeah, left 25.
Runner 1077 and speed 160 knots or less until 4.
120 knots.
Okay, 7 miles, 20 high.
Delta Golf Delta, connect tower, 118, decimal 8, ciao.
118 decimal 8, Delta Golf Delta, ciao. So, 6 miles, 3,310. Stuttgart Tower, low, Delta India November Golf Delta, established VOR approach Romeo 25 for a low approach with an IFR cancellation, leaving the control zone via Lima.
Delta Golf, Delta Roger, wind 21 degrees, 3 knots, 125, cleared low approach, IFR cancelled when passing 2,000 feet.
Delta Golf Delta, Romeo 25, cleared low approach, IFR cancelled when passing 2,000. Okay, passing 5 miles, we should be 2,990, so we are like 30 feet high right now. That's why I didn't want to fly the approach so quickly, because you have those insane rates of descents then. So next up 4 miles, we're looking at 2,670 in the target. 4 miles, 20 high. So 3.2 is going to be the check altitude at 2410. .2, 2410 on glide. Next up 3 miles, 3250 on glide. Getting a little bit turbulent here. So 2 miles, 2030.
Golf,
2 miles, on
Delta
glide.
low approach by direct Lima, QNH 1011.
Low approach direct Lima, QNH 1011. Delta Golf Delta. Okay, 1 mile, 1,710.
Stuttgart Tower, hallo, Lufthansa 2 Charlie, 1 November.
21 Charlie, Stuttgart Tower, hallo.
That's 1 mile and we are like 30 feet high. Okay, 1590 is the minimums. So
500.
approaching minimum. Minimum. Continue. And keep in mind this is a low approach, the landing gear is up. Okay, let's have a bit of fun. Mixture forward, props forward, let's give it power. I always love those low approaches, if you know what I mean. Well, like this low approaches. This is highly illegal, by the way. Don't do that in real life. Yeehaw! I love doing these.
Ryanair 1077, wind 21 degrees, 3 knots, 125.
Of course I would never ever do that in real life. Okay, up there's that tower, that gotta be Lima then. So, IFR is cancelled, so we gotta go squawk 7000. Menu, remove the chart please, thank you. And then this is reporting point indeed.
2-1 Charlie behind land.
Okay, here it is. That's the little tower that we saw on the chart earlier. Okay, give me nice cruise power, something around 25 and 25. Actually 25 and 30 in this airplane. Nice. Delta, Golf Delta approaching Lima, 2,900 feet, request to leave.
Delta Golf Delta, monitor Langen on 125, decimal 2, goodbye.
1252, Delta Golf Delta, ciao.
Thunder 4, Kilo X-ray, report speed to arrival, 125, decimal 350.
Okay, so we clear this. Let's go direct to Freiburg, and over there we're going to do a little bit of single engine stuff. So that's Echo Delta Tango Foxtrot.
Sorry.
Banana uniform Mike, proceed to Spesa.
Direct to Echo Delta Tango Fox.
Thunder 4, Kilo X-ray, arrival, 125, 350.
20 minutes en route. Well, we can cut that short a bit. Power 3525.
Thunder 4, Kilo X-ray. Thunder 4, Kilo X-ray. Banana uniform Mike, cross Spesa to level 110.
Cross Spesa at 110, 9 uniform Mike.
Okay, we're gonna maintain the
Delta
low levels for
112.
now.
Start descent.
Heading of autopilot.
Delta 112, are you in control of your aircraft or is the aircraft in control of you? Descend flight level 240 at 2,500 feet per minute or greater.
Are you in control of the aircraft or is the aircraft in control of you? I love it.
Okay.
And I have a feeling I know the answer. And I have a feeling that's not a good one.
2,500 feet. Is that 112?
Okay, so what we're going to do next is we'll have a look into a couple of the failure simulations here and a couple of the different options that we have relating to failures. So let's start with a little bit of the let's call it easy stuff. And before we do that, let's just about call ATC for traffic information. Hello, Delta India November, Golf Delta.
Delta India November, Golf Delta, Langen.
Delta India November, Golf Delta, out of Stuttgart towards Freiburg in 3,000 feet, request traffic information.
Delta Golf Delta, HOTAS, squawk 2034.
Squawk 2034, Delta Golf Delta. Okay, 2034 is set. So, let's look into a couple of the checklists that we have over here. And, I showed you the engine fire and ground checklist earlier, but this is the interesting stuff. Engine failure on ground roll, which is basically abort the takeoff. So, throttles closed, braking maximum, fuel off, alternator off, battery master off. So basically, shut it down and get it into an evacuation condition as quickly as possible. Now let's go to the more interesting stuff, and let's also ignore that little FS bug here. Whenever I enter an accident checklist, that scroll bar disappears. Lovely MSFS bug. Anyway, so the interesting checklist for us is going to be engine failure in flight. And then we'll review the engine failure on takeoff checklist as well, because we're going to do both. We'll start with the engine failure in flight checklist. And we are going to do that on the way over to Freiburg. So let's have a look into the checklist and see how that goes.
Identified at 3,000 feet, no traffic in your vicinity, Stuttgart, QNH 1011.
Delta Golf Delta, QNH 1011, and we will do simulated engine failure on the way to Freiburg. Okay, so what are we going to do if an engine fails? We'll reduce the airspeed to 150 knots. That's the best rated climb speed there. However, what we should be aware of is that blue line here as well, which is the best single engine rate of climb. So that's going to be interesting for our takeoff later on. But it is also interesting for the go-around, because that is the speed we would fly in a single engine go-around scenario in the Baron. So, going on then, the next point is inoperative engine identify. And that can be more challenging than what you would actually think. And the reason for that is that we have the indications as they are, but contrary to what you are used to from, let's call it standard Microsoft Flight Simulator, if an actual engine fails, the indications are not just going to go to 0, which is what standard MSFS would do. But on this one, you will actually see realistic indications in case of an engine failure, and you will see that in a few moments. So let's now go over the procedure for the engine failure. In-up engine throttle close, in-up engine propeller feather, fuel selector, in-up engine crossfeed. In-up engine magnetos, check both. So basically this is securing the engine that is dead. From here on, it is restarting the engine. So if we want to restart the engine, which should be the default option if the engine goes down unless it catches fire, check the magnetos are in both, engine boost pump high, in-up engine mixture rich, then lean, in-up starter engage, and if no restart, boost pump off, mixture full rich, magnetos check both, starter engage. So basically like that, we're trying to prime the engine and start it, and if that doesn't work, we are trying without priming the engine to start it. And if that doesn't work as well, nearest airport select, secure the engine, land the plane. So that's the idea of the checklist. Now, there are several ways to trigger the failure. We can do it from up here. So we can go to random or scheduled failures, so we can activate some failures here, or we can just shut the engine down using the mixture, which is what I'm going to do, because I want to show you restarting the engine in flight as well. Okay, so as we're about to do that, let's go ahead with the procedure. First thing now, let's check that the area around us is actually clear enough that we can do the procedure that we want to do, that we have sufficient airspace around. So I'm quickly going to program our flight in the Navicraft chart once again. So departing Stuttgart towards Echo Delta Tango Fox. Here we go. Okay, and we are looking at the GPS. We are pretty much around Sierra Uniform Lima, so there is no controlled airspace above us. That means we have all the space that we might want to have. Very good. Okay, so with that, we are pretty much ready for our engine failure. So, are you guys ready? I take that as yes. Okay, I'm going to kill the engine using the mixture lever over here, because we want to be able to restart the engine later. Okay, so let's see. On my last one, oh, the engines are actually in similar condition. Okay, very good. Then it's going to be the left-hand engine in 3, 2, 1, engine failure. Okay, so now look at that. Look at those engine indications. The manifold pressure reduces a bit, but it doesn't go to 0. The prop RPM just stays up because of the windmilling RPMs. Only the fuel flow is where you can see it. And that's the reason why we have the low thrust light on the top there, which alerts us to the failed engine. Okay, so autopilot off. Reduce speed 115. And basically we are trying to convert as much energy as possible right now. So that's the reason why I'm climbing. Here we go, 115.
Langräder, gute Lufthansa for Lima Echo, passing level.
Okay, and as we can see, the engine, the airplane does fly quite nicely like this.
Lufthansa to Lima Echo, climbing level 230.
Okay, so
Radar, good afternoon.
let's continue with the checklist. Inoperative engine identify. So the left engine has less manifold pressure, the left engine has less RPMs, and the low thrust light on the left side is illuminated. I would say it is a failure of the left-hand engine. Okay, that's identified. Then inoperative engine throttle closed. Closed. Inoperative engine propeller feather. Left side. Feather.
Radar, good evening, Lufthansa.
And you can immediately feel
level 300.
how you have less drag. Okay, fuel selector on the inop engine, that's gonna be the left-hand side, got a thrust feed.
When ready, descent flight level 240, Lufthansa 129.
Okay, so with that we are ready to
restart
the engine. So
Lufthansa 129.
that's basically the part where we are securing the engine right now. Now comes the start. Now comes the part where we are going to restart the engine. But before we do that, note real quick how much power the right-hand engine still provides. We are still doing 145 knots on the single engine here, and I haven't even maxed the engine out. So we are still on the previous cruise power setting. So that's just how much thrust you have available in this plane. Okay, let's go ahead with the restart procedure. Inop engine McLeod's, check both. So that's the left side, checked on both. Then, inop engine boost pump high. Boost pump high. Inop engine mixture, rich, then lean. Okay. Rich, keeping it there for a moment, then lean.
Standing flight 100 at 2,500.
So, inop starter, engage. Maybe with a bit more mixture.
Not 373, descent flight level 200.
Okay, no. So, let's quickly see if it started, adding a bit of thrust.
Langen Radar, hello, Lufthansa 812, flight level 220.
And maybe a bit of props.
Langen identified.
So, look at that. The engine is actually running again. That's something that's always worth checking. If your engine actually has started, but is showing
Not 373.
lower indications because of your lever settings. And in this case, that was the case. So the engine is running again.
One Papa X-ray, reduce speed to 3.
Okay, so if no restart, we can skip all that. The engine has restarted. Okay, nice. So let's go ahead real quick and put the fuel selector back into the standard position. And with that, we have basically reset our airplane. Okay, next thing, I'm quickly going to reset the autopilot. Alt, nav, engage. Okay, so we're going again. And then, Jarek, should the manifold pressure go to ambient pressure when the engine is stopped? On the ground, yes. In flight, it depends a bit on the engine design, but on most engines, I would say yes.
Asterix, 45 Charlie, speed 25.
Okay, over to GPS navigation. And here we go.
On the 1 Papa X-ray, correct arrival, 125, decimal 3.
Okay, perfect. So, that engine is running again. Then we could do the same with the other engine now, but the thing that I'm more interested in right now...
And I have got only a Spesa 2 per hour arrival also possible.
Okay, disregard. I was about to ask why the low thrust light was illuminated, but then I noticed my mixture was still at the lean setting, so problem solved.
At 2,000 feet per minute or greater.
Okay, heater can go off, we've got 30 degrees in the cabin and... So, 7 minutes to our destination. Let's have a quick look into our destination airport Freiburg, and when we are done with that, we will finally do a touch and go. And on the touch and go, we are going to do an engine failure on takeoff. So that's going to be the
cleared Farwood to Bravo.
that's going to be the last thing that we'll do today. Engine failure on takeoff.
Could you repeat, please?
And,
Listen to 193.
The 193 cleared Farwood.
We will assume that we will not be able to restart
Cleared
that engine,
7
so we
to
are simply
Bravo,
going to take it as a
193.
failed engine. Then we're going to do a single engine approach, a single engine go around, traffic pattern, and thereafter a full stop landing single engine. So that's our idea for today. Quick look into our destination airport charts then. So back into aerodromes, we're looking at Foxtrot, and then we're looking at Freiburg in Breisgau, Echo Delta Tango Fox. Here it is. So, let's check with ATC if he has any weather data available. Langen Delta Golf Delta, do you have any weather information for our destination Freiburg, Echo Delta Tango Foxtrot?
Delta Golf Delta, sorry, no weather information.
Delta Golf Delta, roger.
Under 1 Delta Mike.
Okay, no weather info available. Fair enough. Then we are just going to say that we are going to decide for runway 34 up here. Actually, no, we'll go the other way around. We'll go to runway 16. And the reason we'll do it is because the approach leads us over the wooden areas up here, which means that we don't have to be afraid of crashing the plane into the city. In case we mess it up. Which I'm not expecting, but nonetheless. And Christian, oh, sounds like a Czech ride. Yeah, pretty much really. Okay, so that is that part of the setup complete. So let's quickly review the non-normal checklists that we will need. We'll start with the engine failure on takeoff checklist. And that is what we've got. Landing gear up, flaps retract above 85 knots, inoperative engine identify, throttle close, prop feather, airspeed maintain 100 knots. And this is something that you might not be too used to if you have previously flown other single-engine GA aircraft. And that is the markings that we have on the speed indicator here, the blue and the red one. The blue marking basically is our best single-engine rate of climb speed. So that's the speed that we're going to use whenever we need the most lift, single engine. The red one is the minimum control speed in the air. So even though we can technically fly down until 75 knots down here, below that speed, if we are setting maximum thrust, we will not be able to maintain a constant forward flight. So, in other words, if we are below that red line and we use full power, we are going to lose directional control of the airplane. So that's what to be aware of there. When that is done, in-up engine cutoff, a mixture cutoff, fuel selector off, boost pump off, magnetos off, alternator off, cowl flaps closed, and reduce the alternator load to a maximum of 80 amperes. So that's the plan for our single engine procedures now. And yeah, I would say with that we are pretty much fully prepared. Now, Jarek is asking in the comments, is the airspeed at this power setting roughly matching the performance given in the real aircraft manual? If I'm honest with you, I don't have the real airplane manual available at the moment, so I apologize, but I am not able to answer that question for you. It is a pity, because that would be some very handy information, some performance tables for the crews, but unfortunately they are not included in the product manual. The aircraft comes with a 100-page manual, which explains every system in really good depth. However, it does not come with performance tables, which is really unfortunate, but, well, it is what it is. Okay, 2 minutes to go. Traffic pattern altitude at Freiburg is 1,800, so we can start our descent. Delta Golf Delta, approaching Freiburg, request to leave.
Delta Golf Delta, frequency change is approved, Squawk VFR, tschüss, gute Landung.
Squawk VFR, frequency change approved, Delta Golf Delta, thank you very much. Ja, vielen Dank für heute. Schönen Abend, tschüss.
Ja, ciao.
Okay, Squawk VFR, frequency change is approved. So let's go over to something where we are not going to disturb anybody. on a 345. Okay, so now it's got to be up to finding our destination, and thereafter, well, I found the destination. The good thing at Freiburg is you have that football stadium directly next to the runway. So down here is our runway. That was easy finding it. So we'll fly over at the airport, and then we'll go into the traffic pattern. You are normally not really supposed to do that, but I can't be bothered for today. So I am going to do that. And Dock Trench, yeah, absolutely, useful landmark. Okay, so we'll take it over the field. The pattern is in the west of the field, heading select. Unfortunately, the scenery doesn't really look good. I do apologize for that. At some point shortly after starting the live stream, Microsoft decided to kill the servers. And well, since that happened, we don't have the photorealistic Bing data available anymore. So well, we've got to live with that. Anyway, we should be able to we should absolutely be able to fly those traffic patterns and do what we want to do. Okay, so let's turn into the downwind. Pattern altitude 1800 is what we have. And there's supposed to be a river somewhere over here. I think it's that one. And then once we pass the street over here, we're going to start our base turn. So basically now. Okay, that pun was definitely not intended. Anyway. Feels a little bit, like thrown back to the FSX days here with that scenery. Unbelievable, is it? Okay, over there's our runway. Maintaining 1800. And flying JJ, you can do escape and reconnect in the data menu. Yeah, I could, but the simulator has a tendency to crash when I do that. That's the reason why I prefer not to do it during the stream. Normally I would do exactly that, but during the live stream I really don't want to risk the simulator crashing to desktop. Okay, so landing flaps. Turn final. Over there's our runway. Okay, 90 knots looks good. I'm a
500.
little bit too high. Okay, here we are. It's quite turbulent here. Okay, idle thrust. Okay, then. Now comes the interesting thing. Now we'll do the engine failure. So, set take a thrust. First set. Rotate. Engine failure. Okay, gear up. Positive rate. Memory items. Power lever number 2, cut off. Prop number 2, feather. Oh, this does not look good. Oh, this does really not look good. I'm behind the power curve. Come on, give me something. Man, that was close. That was freaking close. Whew. That was about as close as it gets. Okay, but we've made it to 100 knots, now we are safely climbing out. Okay, that was not how it is supposed to look like, okay? I've messed something up. I forgot the flaps in the landing position on the touch and go. And therefore we had a lot more drag than we were supposed to have. And in the end, when I retracted the flaps, I was somewhere around 80 knots, which was slower than we were supposed to be. Whew, man. For a second I really thought I would put the thing into the buildings. Okay, we gotta do that right. So, I want to do that right one more time. Let's go ahead and restart that engine. So yeah, I'll lean that prop, fuel pump in a high, and then engine starter. Might use a little bit more there. Introduce thrust on the other engine, we don't want to kill it. Okay, try that once more. See if it starts up. Okay, we have a running engine. Okay, good. So, that was, interesting, but let's do it right. Let's do it right for educational purposes once more. So we're going to do another touch and go. And Christian, guess you'll be changing your underwear after you've landed. Yep. If that happened in real life, honestly, that'd be an experience. Okay, stop blinking. So, gear down, approach flaps. And this time we're gonna do it right, I promise. Of course I've flown out quite a bit too far, but that shall be fine. Okay, landing flaps. And then the boost pump goes back in low, and that is all we have changed. Okay. So, where is that field? Over there. Man, that was interesting. That was interesting. But that's how easy it can happen. You do everything right, except that you forget one thing, which in our case were the flaps that were left in the landing configuration, and therefore we didn't have enough thrust available. That's just how tight it actually is. Okay, getting back towards the final. And Villa the Dude, what is the spinning thing in between the RPM gauges? I mean that one. and that's showing us if the engines are running at the same speed. So I've just turned the engine synchronizer off, and basically since it's turning to the right, we know that the left engine is producing a little bit less power than the right engine. So now I've slightly changed power. Like that you can adjust the engines to give you the same power on both sides. Okay, so a little bit turbulent here in the short final. Here we go. Okay, flaps up. And here we go. Power set. Rotate. Engine failure. Okay, positive rate. Gear up. And that performance looks definitely better. Okay, engine failure, memory items. Okay, confirm failed side. Left side confirmed. Okay, left throttle, cutoff, left RPMs, feather. And the rest we'll do from the checklist in a moment. Okay, so as you can see, the thing flies pretty nicely. Now let's slightly reduce the RPMs on the right engine. We don't want to kill our one remaining engine. And that's it. Now we're safely climbing out at 100 knots. So let's go ahead and do the non-normal checklists. We've basically reached pattern altitude of 1800. And once we're at that, I'm quickly going to stabilize the airplane. Okay, this looks good. Give me a good power setting. $30 and 25. Looks good to me. Maintaining a nice speed here around 130 knots. So, engine failure on takeoff checklist. Landing gear up. Up. Flaps up. Inoperative engine identify. We've got the low thrust light on the left side. Manifold pressure is close to 0. RPMs close to 0. And the fuel flow is down. Okay, the inoperative engine is the left-hand engine. So, engine throttle closed. That's the left throttle, that's closed. Inop engine propeller feather. Left side, feather. Let's see if we can actually see the thing feather physically. That must not necessarily be the case on the Baron. Not sure if it is. Looks like it isn't. Okay. Airspeed maintain 100. Well, we are faster than that already since we're level. Okay. Inop engine mixture cutoff. Cutoff. Inop engine fuel selector off. So that's going to be the left one. So that one. Off. Inop engine boost pump off. Boost pump off. Inop engine magnetos off. That's the left side. Yep, confirmed. Off. Inop engine alternator off. Left side off. Cowl flaps closed. They're closed. And alternator load 80 amps maximum. We are at almost 80, but just below it. Okay, it's daylight. Let's reduce the load a little bit by turning some of the lights off that we don't necessarily need. Okay. So that's our engine failure on takeoff checklist complete. Now let's go ahead and do the single engine landing. So pattern altitude 1800. Let's go back down to that. Now we'll enter the traffic pattern and fly a standard approach to landing. There is a widespread thinking among flight simmers that you cannot turn over the live engine when you have an engine failure. As you can see, we can turn in both directions without any problems. And to my knowledge, that is the case on any airplane. I'm not aware of any plane where you can only turn into the direction of the failed engine, as some rumors claim it would be on some aircraft. Okay, so after the landing, I'm going to give my full impression on the plane again, so that you can make up your, well, your opinion based on mine, or based on what you saw. And after landing, I'm also going to try and answer as many questions about the plane as possible. But for now, our first challenge is going to be to actually get this airplane on the ground. So, there should be a little river for the downwind, but you know what, we're just about going... Ah, here it is. Here is the river. Then, just behind the river is the road, which we are basically flying over already. So this is basically our point to turn base anyway. Okay. Reduce power. Oh, down there is the runway. That's quite close already. Power to idle. Gear down. Okay, approach flaps. So, I would like to be able to see something now. Oh yeah. Hopelessly overturn. Man. Okay, we're going to discontinue that, and we'll do a left-hand turn back into the final.
500.
Sometimes it is really annoying that you have such a limited field of view in the simulator. Sometimes it's really annoying. Okay, what's our flaps? Approach. Okay. But this is fine. We can maintain altitude, even though we are on a very high power setting. But we maintain altitude and speed. That is good enough for me. But look at the dramatic effect the landing gear has on the drag here. With the gear down and the one engine in takeoff power, basically, we are barely able to hold altitude with the flaps in approach. Okay. That looks alright to me. And look at how much aileron input I have here in order to keep the plane level. The runway is a bit further to the right. Actually can't see anything here. Let's do that. So we are flying at full power right now. Okay, that's better. Continue our descent. We're going to keep the flaps in the approach position here. I'm not going to go to landing flaps, otherwise we just don't have any performance available at all anymore. Not the prettiest of my approaches, that's for sure. Not worthy a check ride, that is also for sure. But then again, idle. And we're down. Okay, look at that. As soon as the engine is no longer turning anymore, or rather as soon as it is not windmilling anymore, immediately the propeller stops. That is quite nice. What's also quite nice is that we are able to do a single engine taxi here. Oh, that looked like a taxiway. Okay. There should be one on the left any moment. Flying JJ, great landing. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, the landing was... nah. That wasn't the prettiest of my approaches. But, if I'm honest with you, this was the second single-engine approach I've flown with the Baron. I've did one prior to the stream, so it certainly wasn't perfect, but it didn't kill us, let's put it that way. I almost killed us on the first failure attempt, but that was for a different reason. Okay, so flaps up, keep it on the taxiway, which is not that easy, single engine, but it works. I guess we're just going to put it over to the right there. Let's see if we can actually do a right-hand turn. Oh yeah, we can. Okay, that's quite easy. Very good. Okay. And we are going to keep it right here. So, park brake set, fuel pump off, strobe light off, pitot heat off, avionic master, well, thank you very much, my friend. Off. And then we can shut the remaining engine down as well. And those should be in the forward position. Magnetos off, alternator and battery off. Okay, that's it. The analog Bonanza. And it is an absolutely lovely airplane, isn't it? And sorry, the analog Baron, of course. Absolutely lovely plane. I really like it. So, what do I think about it then? Before you guys run away, let's quickly talk about my final opinion on the plane. It is marvelous. The system simulation is about the best in business. Now listen in the background, you can hear that engine slowly cooling down, as they are both rather hot at the moment, and if you wanted to restart them right now, you would actually need to follow a different startup procedure than if they were cold. So the experience flying the Baron is really, really cool. The handling of the plane is really nice. The systems are just, I know I keep repeating myself, but the systems are just marvelous. And the graphics are very good as well. Now, the performance of the plane, how it flies, feels really good. Unfortunately, I don't have any pilot operating handbook of a Baron at hand, so I cannot compare those values to real life. However, comparing the values that we saw in the plane over here and what I'm used to from flying real life multi-engine piston aircraft, I would say that what we saw in here was actually quite realistic. So overall, really good performance, absolutely lovely to fly it like this, and I can absolutely recommend this to everybody. It's going to be available on the 23rd, so next Thursday, and it is going to come at a price point of about 30 euros, and I find it to be priced really well there in terms of system complexity. And with that, Robert is asking in the comments, A2A finally have a competitor then? Yes, they absolutely do. I'm really looking forward to what these guys at Black Square are going to deliver next, but overall, I can give an absolute recommendation for this airplane. It is probably the best multi-engine piston airplane that is available in Microsoft Flight Simulator at the moment. It is probably really the best multi-engine piston airplane. The Cessna 414 is nice, but doesn't go as in-depth as this does. So that's the reason why I'm putting this one above it. Of course, the 414 is still really good. And honestly, I can give my full recommendation for any of the Black Square aircraft. They are all really, really nice. Be it the Analog King Air, the Bonanza, and now the Baron. So all of them really recommendable. And I'm certainly going to use this one for a little bit of practice and recapping of systems before I'm going to hop into renewing my multi-engine piston license, because the behaviors of the engine when you are failing them, but also the behavior of the engine if you don't fail them, but just use them under normal operation, is really, really authentic. So very, very well done overall. I'm really happy with it. It looks good, it flies good, it sounds good, even though the sounds come from the default aircraft with a couple of enhancements to them. So, overall, full recommendation of this plane. Let me think about if I have anything on the negative to say. Well, there is one thing, and that is that we cannot open the doors. So, you can not open the doors in this airplane. But the reason for that is... The reason that we cannot open the doors is that due to the license that Microsoft gives out with the simulator, since they are using the standard outside model of the default Baron, they are not allowed to change that. They can add additional stuff like the winglets or like the inlets of the turbochargers up here, but they cannot do the outside models. And Metal Eye, yep, which they did their own models too. Yeah, honestly, I'm rather happy that they don't, because if they did, I'm sure the product would cost quite a bit of extra money. And if we are honest, I believe that the standard outside models look pretty good. The only downside is the non-operable doors, but if they did their entire own models, we'd probably pay like 10 or 15 euros more for the extra development, only for the doors to open. In my opinion, that's not really worth it, is it? But yeah, that's really it. So, Kunal, is it better than the Milvus 310R? That's a good question. Now, the 310R also got quite some nice features, but it doesn't have these manually selectable failures, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. I might very well be, since it's been a while since I've used the Milvus. But, to my knowledge, it doesn't have those manually selectable failures. Metal Eye, when is the next stream? I don't know yet. I was hoping for the weekend, but that's just fallen into the water. So next week. I can promise you next week, but I can't tell you exactly when. Robert, do add-on liveries for the default Baron work for this? To my knowledge, yes and no. Yes, but they would need some adaptation to my knowledge. Because the default Baron is still available in the... the default Baron is still available in the sim, so default liveries would go to that. But let's have a very quick look into the product manual, because there is something in there. I do remember that, but I don't remember what exactly. Okay, so it is compatible with all default liveries via an easy conversion process, for which a tutorial is provided within the manual. So that's how you can use it. Also, as of release, the Analog Baron is completely compatible with the Baron Improvements mod that you can find on flightsim.to. The two aircraft are not related to each other in any way and can coexist happily. So you can still use that Baron Improvements mod from flightsim.to. But that is only going to work with the default Baron and not with this one, because they've actually done their own modeling there. So yeah, that is it. Out next Thursday. Hopefully they plan next Thursday, but you guys know it, plans may change. But overall, from my experience, the only thing that I came across that I am going to ask the developer about is the holding of the altitude. So it kept climbing 100 feet above our set target altitude. That is something that, that's probably the only thing that just comes to my mind that would actually need changing. But that's going to be it for today. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, do let me know in the comments below. And I'm very much looking forward to welcome you all again very soon. As always, if you want to support the channel, you can do that using the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below, or by becoming a channel member, which is going to give you exclusive early access to new videos before they come out for everybody else. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all next time. Until then, enjoy your weekend, get the Bonanza if you haven't gotten it yet. It's really a marvelous plane as well, on the level with this one. And then next Thursday, If you already own the Bonanza, you can get 25% off the Baron, and in any case, both aircraft highly recommendable. So, see you all, have a good weekend, and I see you definitely next week.